I'll call this regular meeting of council for Monday, February 19th, 2018 to order. And just a reminder to council, we've had some requests that we should use the mics again, so that's not being heard well in some places. I think it's mainly to do with TV. I need approval of the agenda. Councilor Mackay. Councilor Scott, you second. All in favor? Adoption of the minutes for January 29th, 2018, regular council meeting. Councilor House.
Just a little correction on one of the points there, 8.1.4. 8.1.4 is a point on here that says the item, the interpretive trail, to be removed from Schedule B, and it shows on here that it carried. It's on page 9. It was defeated. With myself and Councilor Paskowka voting on the negative. Checked with Mr. Wall and he's confirmed that that's wrong. That's a mistake.
That's good. That?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Where were we now? Need a recommendation for accepting those minutes as amended. Councilor Howard, Secretary. Councilor Kirkaka. All in favor? Okay, February 5th, 2018, regular meeting, council meetings. Minutes. Councilor Scott.
The council adopted minutes of February 5th, 2018, regular council meeting as presented.
Secretary, Councilor Howard. All in favor? Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, go to petition and delegation. Mark Kowski, welcome to our delegation table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, sir.
We had a bit of a conversation the other day, and this might take a little bit over the 15-minute mark, so as long as council hasn't got any objections to that.
I have a habit of going over, so I'll talk fast and then just stop me if you have any questions or if you'd like for me to go in. Also want to introduce Andre LaForest. He's our Director of Environmental, and I thought it would be nice for him to come along if anybody had any questions from an environmental standpoint that I don't go over during the discussion. I got a chance to come in here last year and meet you guys a year ago. And I think a year ago I was a bunch of, I hope so, I wish so, we got all these great ideas. And I didn't see anybody's wink and grin, but I figured you had to be doing some of that. Because we had a lot of aspirations when we came in here a year ago. We had just purchased the property on September of 2016. So I think I was here, January of last year. And we got a chance to kind of talk about that we had just kind of stepped in and we'd opened the borough operation. At that point in time, we thought we'd be looking at we thought we'd be looking at the Wolverine operation toward the end of 17. And then we thought we'd be looking at Willow toward the end of maybe 18. Obviously with the market, very, very seldom does the market ever do better than you thought it would. It seemed like in my history, my 40 years worth of mining history, but in this case it has, we've been blessed by a great market. So I kind of wanted to, I asked the mayor if I could come in and address the council and the community as far as kind of giving an update on where we're at over the last year and kind of what our plans and hopes are over this next year. So with that, that's the presentation that I put in. And I'll try to go really quick over some areas that, maybe more informational, that I want just to get that information in your hands. And try to spend some more time toward the end and if there was a real question. At the beginning, kind of looking at all three of our properties, the Willow Creek operation, the Burl operation, and the Wolverine. You see they're kind of in the middle, those three triangles. Those are Those are the assets that Canoe now controls. The Wolverine and the Burl obviously running now. Willow Creek is an operation that we hope to be bringing on in July, with about 60% of the workforce in July and the other 40% of the workforce coming in October. And that'll be located just a little bit to the north of Chetwynd, heading toward Prince George. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. We're the only current metallurgical coal producer of coal in the Northeast BC right now. And when I say metallurgical coal, I mean steel making. To kind of give you an idea for that one, just to kind of give you a feeling, is that for every ton of steel, there has to be 3/4 of a ton of metallurgical coal produced. So as again, I'll take the byline that the mayor's used in conferences that I've heard him, for every windmill that you see, you're also looking at 100 tons of coal. So to me, that's a good example of where it has to go together. We as a team as a community, have been very blessed in BC to have a resource that we can export, which not only gives us a lot of jobs because of the way the mining profession is, but it also gives us a lot of income into BC. And as I go forward, I'll talk a little bit more about that also. We're on the corridor right now for the CN, which is a 600-mile corridor from here to Port Rupert or Port Ridley. And so all of our coal goes there, and then it all goes to export. Right now, we're currently exporting coal a little bit to South America, a little bit to Europe, but the majority of it goes to Asia, either Korea, Japan, or China. Just to kind of give you, as far as the other assets, the Burl operation is considered a premium, low vol, low sulfur product, which is considered very, very important in the steel making process. And then the Wolverine operation is what we call a hard coking 64 coal, which is again used in the steel making process, a very, very high quality coal. And then the Willow Creek operation is considered a high CSR metallurgical coal. The positive with all three of those products is those are the three main products that are considered premium coals throughout the world. One of the things that we were excited about when we saw this operation and the opportunities here is the fact that we can be a one-stop shop for a steel producer. If you're producing steel and you're running a big blast furnace, chances are you're going to need 5 different types of metallurgical coal. And we've been blessed to have 3 of those 5. So very, very, very much of a positive in the international market. If you look at the international market, most of the met coal comes from Australia. And from the situation from a marketing standpoint, the negative is that what's always considered out of Northeast BC was our coal here was low phosphorus, it was low sulfur, but it was high in ash, it was high in rock. And it was very variable in the ash. And that was considered the only negative really to our marketplace. What we've done is work with our employees, brought in some different practices that we're doing right now. We've actually turned that from a negative into a positive in that we've reduced our ash variation dramatically, which has made a huge difference from the market standpoint. So we've now taken it from what was considered a negative in Northeast BC to considered an ultra premium product. And we're pretty well sold out. If we wanted to be sold out right now, we could be sold out, as far as for the next couple of years worth of production. So we're really excited where we're at. We've been able to take something that was considered kind of a negative and turn it into an asset, which is going to help build for security for the longer term. Just kind of run through as far as our mining process. I thought it might be interesting just to kind of run through this really quickly. We basically break it down into 5 steps. The first is what we call pre-stripping. It basically is a picture on the left, in the left-hand side there. As you can see, the timber then will be contracted to be cut, to be harvested, and then once that's harvested, then the topsoil would be taken off, put into another pile that we can bring that back later at the end of the operation and put the topsoil back on and then vegetate it back with native vegetation. So the picture over on the left-hand side, you can see where the timber's cut, the topsoil has been scraped off, and then we're dealing with an alluvial material there that in most cases runs about 20 meters thick, where it's basically a kind of a loose gravel that's right underneath the topsoil. Then that'll be peeled off. The picture on the right-hand side is a big hydraulic shovel. The hydraulic shovel will load it into those trucks, in that case a 260-ton Caterpillar truck that's then hauled back to the other side of the pit. Then the pit's advanced, and then after the pit is completed, then the topsoil is brought back on, and then it's revegetated. Okay, then the next stage, after the topsoil and the alluvial materials pulled off, then we'll come in with drills. The drill over on the right-hand side, that happens to be at the Wolverine operation. And then, so we'll drill those holes anywhere from about 20 to 40 meters deep. Then we'll put explosives in those, and then we will shoot that. If you watch this shot on the left-hand side, you'll see the way the shot comes out. And that shot was a detonated blast. So what'll happen is the outer rows will go first, and the next rows will be 100 milliseconds behind that, and then it gravitates all the way back. What that allows us to do is to be able to use those explosives to move a lot of that material. And that's not new. What is a little different in our case is we brought in a system what we call cast blasting with the dozer push. And what our goal is to be able to maximize the amount of material that we're moving through the explosives, and then be able to bring big D11 push dozers, which is on the right-hand side of that page. We bought 4 of those at over $3 million a piece, and they were brought in to be able to push that dirt and rock. And that allows us to be able to do that in a lot cheaper methods than what's been done in the past. That right there has been allowed us to probably reduce our costs somewhere in the range of $4 to $5 a ton. So there's about 5 or 6 major mining differences that we were doing compared to some of the other companies in the past. And that's allowed us right now, we've reduced our operating costs by over 40% compared to where they were when it was being operated before. Then the next phase is what we call load and coal. That's with the backhoes and excavators. I talked about that just a minute ago, where I talked about picking the coal clean and turning that into a positive for us. So we're real proud of what the team and the crews have done up there. The next one is what we call blending coal. And what we're doing is we're basically mining those coal seams in different layers. By doing that, then we can turn around and custom and blend them back by using ash analyzers. So there's a lot of technology that we're using, a lot of computers that are used to be able to blend this material back, make an optimum product. The picture on the right-hand side up there is what we call our crusher station. It's a $3 million system that we've just finished, and that's allowing us to be able to haul full loads of truck, but also in a way that we can totally control what that ash is. From a company focus standpoint, extremely strong towards safety. If you look at, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. From a signature of what people I would hope to look at Conuma as, very committed to what we call a loss prevention program, and that is a program that's not a safety versus productivity versus efficiency. It's what them all tied together. Matter of fact, the way we define efficiency would be maximize safety with optimal productivity. Those two have to go together. And bragging on our people, what I'd like to say, and I think it's a credit to this whole area, is that the numbers now have come out on Conuma for 2017. We're going to be ranked the safest mining company in British Columbia of all mining companies, and probably when the Canadian numbers come out, of all Canada. Our safety rate right now is running 0.15. The closest competition we have as far as the loss prevention, the loss frequency rate is going to be 0.32. So we're over half what the closest competition is. And not that I shouldn't say it competition, I don't mean it that way, but I'm very proud of what our people have done. Especially for a new operation going in together where we're new to each other, to be able to tout those kind of numbers. I think it's been a very good commitment from the beginning that this has to be done in the long term, but yet in a balanced way. So we're very proud of that. Low cost, low debt, is one of the things that some of the operations have struggled with in the past, is having so much debt. We were blessed to buy it when the market was down, which drove the price down. Obviously, it was in bankruptcy. It was, we had some struggles to come out of that. But I think what we tried to do, as well as we're trying to do now, is regardless of what the market is, to run it in a very, very tight manner in which, when the commodity market does swing negatively, that we'll be in a position to be a long-term player. As I look at each one of you councilmen and the mayor, I've told the mayor this on a number of times, if I ever have to walk in here and say we didn't make it, and I failed you all, and I failed this community. And that's very much how Conuma looks at this. We realize that this is an opportunity to come in and to work with people and a number of families, and we don't intend to fail. So that's very, very important to us to be able to say that. We've got a reserve base now that's over 200 million tons. All 4 of our mine life setups, so I'll talk about here in a minute, are set on plus 15 years of the mine life. Very strong about partner empowerment. We consider you all a partner, as well as we consider our 4 First Nations partners, and all of our vendor partners. Very consistent, high quality coal producer for the long term. Those are kind of the goal side. If you look at a chart as far as how we've done over the last 16 months, you can see the dotted line is the employment curve. Right now we're running a little bit over about 570 employees, And over this next year, and I'll talk about that here in just a minute, we plan on picking up another 270 employees. Of those 270 employees, 120 from Tumblr and about 150 from Checker. Most of those will be kind of loaded toward the front end of the year. Because like I said, by the July of this year, we hope to put the first shovel on at Willow Creek. The second shovel will come on and will be full speed by the end. So that kind of gives you a feel from a growth standpoint. Last year, we did about 3.5 million tons of production. For the year, that's more tonnage than was ever done at those complexes in the past, with about 30% less on the workforce standpoint. So from a productivity standpoint, we put those together, and that's how we've been able to do that 40% cost reduction, which right now puts us in right about in the middle of the pack internationally. So we feel real good about where we're at. From a cost standpoint, the team has done a very good job, and from a quality standpoint. I didn't come in here just to give a commercial. I hope it doesn't come across that way. What I do want to do is when I look at you in the eye and I tell you that our goal is to build a long-term player, not necessarily one that's a flash in the pan. That's very, very important to us. And you do that through cost reduction, through your safety numbers, and also from a quality standpoint. Try to trip all three of those different areas together. As you can see on that lower graph, that solid line graph, what that shows you is where we want to be from a tonnage rate standpoint. Our goal is to grow up to about 900 people, which we should be about 850 by the end of this year. And we should be at about, we should do about 5.5 million tons this year, and then over the next 3 years, be ramping up to 7.5 million tons a year. That's where we'd like to be as an operation. That helps us get our operating costs down where they need to be. Operating costs run about 50% fixed, 50% variable. So obviously, we can run a 7.5 million ton capstone rate. That's the kind of size that we feel like we can manage well and from a long-term standpoint. Those are kind of the four complexes that we have laid out right now. The Willow complex is up full speed. The Wolverine complex also came up to speed, started in January of this year. We appreciate the council and the mayor, your help on CN. The original comments from them was November of 17 was the earliest they were going to be able to get the line going, and you guys helped us with some letters and a lot of phone calls. We very much appreciate that, and they actually finished toward the middle of August. Railroad finishing early isn't necessarily common. So again, I think that was to me a case of where when a bunch of people get together and they put their minds together. We got a lot of positive from our employees. We also got a lot of positive from the council and from the mayor. We very much appreciate that. They finished early. We got that online. I got the extra trucks off the road and we got back on the rail line. CN has come a long way since then. Right now we're averaging a little bit over 1 train per day. Would like to be up about 1.5 trains per day, so we're still gigging them. So every once in a while I may ask you for some help on that. But we've been real pleased with the partnership that's developed with them also. The Willow Creek operation, you can see that's coming on the plate, and there's a couple different reserves there. And those colors on that map designate when the current reserves would run out and when the next pit then would start. So you can see that kind of gives you a line out for the next few years. And then at the very top, that'll be the last complex coming on, which will be the FCCR road projects. And they'll actually come on in 2020. Okay, I want to talk just a little bit about some of what I would consider Canuma's signatures. First is our loss prevention business plan. It's not a safety plan, it's how we look at our business. We define loss as an injury or violation, downtime, rework, or waste. And the way we look at it is if we can be focused to improving that and getting all of our employees and our partners on board to do that together, that's going to be critical, and that's how we earn our long-term security. It's not a plan separate from a productivity, it's how we look at our job. And again, when I brag on our people's safety numbers, I brag from that standpoint. That is our number one principle that we have. Uncompromised safety has to be involved in everything we're doing. Again, top ranking, like I mentioned earlier. Number 2 is integrity process, which is what we consider our operating system. And it's based on having a consistent mission statement, values, and process pillars. I won't go into all that, but I just do want to get you that information. It also, the next part keys into what we call maximizing opportunities. We're a very proactive environmental and an engineering group. We're doing a lot of things that is being showcased from the agencies. For example, our BCR system. There's a picture of a BCR right there. What has been delineated, especially in the last 10 years, and all over North America especially, has been to go after what we call selenium. Selenium is a heavy metal, and it's been something that we in the past in mining have not really addressed. It's been brought out, it's really in the last 10 years in the States and in Canada as far as setting limits. Very much took the mining industry kind of off guard because it wasn't something that was on anybody's radar before. So we're still in kind of a developmental stage. The other two companies that had operations here kind of addressed it with the plant system involved, and they have been fairly successful. They've not done much. If we look at some of the other people, especially down south, I've been involved in 15 other BCRs down south. And we've gone through quite a bit of a learning curve over that. What basically a BCR is, it lets the water come into a lagoon that has a liner on the bottom of it, which has limestone in the base of that, with the biomass material on top. We allow the water then to come up to run through that limestone, which works as filtration. When it hits the biomass, then there's bacteria in that biomass, are basically bugs. And the bugs rob the oxygen out of that selenium molecule, which then drops that heavy metal out to the bottom, and it allows us to be able to pull that selenium back out of the water. It does as simple as it sounds, and if I let Andre talk, we'll be here 2 hours, and it'll make it a lot more complicated and be a lot more impressed with him. So I'll just keep it on my bugs comment. But it is done very, very well. We've been able to use some experts from down south to bring them up. The industry is very much watching kind of what we're doing here, because this is also a different atmosphere than it's being used down south, but we've seen tremendous results, and I really compliment Andre and his team on being able to do this. We put the first one in, we'll be putting the second BCR in this year, and there's quite a few other companies that are coming up, and the agencies are very, very tuned to this, because there's a really good chance that this is going to allow us to really drop a lot of the selenium levels from other operations that are on the past. From another thing standpoint is not only the proactive engineering and the BCR, we've been able to look at quality control. I mentioned that before, the cast push to reduce our costs. The high wall mining is also an application that hasn't been used up here in the past. And that's a system where basically you take your high wall and you take a machine and it bores back into the hillside, so you don't have to disturb any more surface. It allows us, in most cases, to produce another 20 to 30% more coal out of the basically same pit without any environmental effects at all. And it does it at about half the mining cost. So we're very excited to be able to employ that type of system here also, and our system should be starting in July at the Burrell operation. There's also a number of other things that we're doing. Just take, for example, a solid screen bowl system. That's some new technology. It was just invented about 3 years ago, and we've now got one of those put in at Wolverine, and we're putting one also at Willow. It's a $2 million project that's put in that allows us to produce about another 5% of our coal that we're throwing away currently, and we're being able to use that and be able to now sell that. So it's not only that it helps on the revenue side, it also helps environmentally, because that's coal that doesn't get put back into refuge dumps to cause problems with that. So we're real excited about what we're seeing with that. Project Excel, I'll just mention, for those, and I get a chance to talk to the schools and talk to the kids involved there, and show them how much IT is involved in what we're doing. For example, if you come on to the Wolverine site right now, if you're an operator, one of the first things you get is you get a tablet, and then all your information from that day is taken through that tablet, and we use that to process not only their information or maintenance suggestions, any suggestion on the property, but we also use that for a lot of our diagnostic stuff to go back into maintenance. So it's very important to us to get input from the employees, and these tablets are a way to make sure that every idea that's turned in is getting prioritized and getting on work list. The last part that we're very much proud of anything as far as the city of Canuma is the pay it forward concept. Not only is what we can do for the families, but also from the community standpoint. The mayor brought up, for example, that one of the projects that the council has gone forward is on the sign, and we at Canuma would like to donate $20,000 to that project. So that check will be half in this month and half next month. I think that was approved.
Thank you.
But we try to stay in contact to find out what, because as far as we're concerned, we're very much responsible for how Tumbler Ridge is doing and also how Chapman is doing. We take that as our personal responsibility at Canuma and our 4 First Nations partners also. So from a local standpoint, that's very important to us. Our First Nations, we're real proud to say that we're just a little bit over a year old, and we do have IBAs worked out with all 4 of our First Nations partners. We feel like that's a responsibility, and yet it's an honor also at the same time. So feel very much part of that. Our extended family, we get to brag a little bit about that. We have an orphanage in Bolivia that we also help support in Vancouver Children's Home. And our employees with the company last year got to send about $53,000 to help those 2 programs. So we're as proud of that, helping that as we are anything else. We feel like we should be a company that sows back into the community, whether it's local or whether it's also our extended family. Partners, when I talk about that, not only do I talk about our community partners, but also our vendor partners. We have over 250 British Columbia vendor partners, and we're very proud of those relationships and continuing to look to develop those further. From an environmental standpoint, Andre has 8 different groups that we help support on that, whether it's Ducks Unlimited or Wild Sheep or whatever, there's 8 of them. And we're also continuing looking for programs that we can do. Our attitude on that standpoint is that we do not have a responsibility not only to leave a negative long-term footprint, but we don't have the right to leave a short-term negative footprint. Anytime that we mine or anytime we put 9 billion people on this earth, we're going to have an impact. But we have a responsibility as a company to make sure we're leaving a positive short and long. So that's very important to us to be able to be involved in some proactive programs along that line also. There's a number of the things I wanted to mention from the community partnership that's very important to us is to understand what the past was, understand the goals. You know, the mayor and I have been able to spend a lot of time talking about the goals of Tumbler Ridge, and we do the same with Chetwynd and our 4 First Nations partners, and to look at leading a new approach. We consider that as one that the government, I can't wait for Victoria to tell me what I should do. I should be doing what I should do. I should do what I need to do to help our communities. And as I've said, and hopefully you've seen the results of that, we've been a part of this. We've been very proud to be part of Tumbler and Chetwynd and our 4 First Nations groups, because I think that that's where long-term is at. We came here, I made a commitment to you last year when I was here, folks, to try to hire local, and that continues to get harder as we go forward. But right now, we're running about 82% of all of our employees are hired local. We still resisted the camp concept. That was something that was obviously done before, and most mining companies have done. To be honest with you, it'd be a lot cheaper on my training budget. We're spending about 3 times more money now than what we originally had budgeted on training and what previous people had done. But when you go camps, there is some cost to that. Training is obviously a cost. The positive I'd like to think is we're getting employees that are coming with us that would like to retire with us. Previously, most camp operations, the average employee stays less than 7 months. And as a community, and my commitment to you guys is, and it was and it will remain, is that I want to be a blessing to this community. And doing it on a short-term basis doesn't always do that. So that's something that we want to be a part of the school system. We want to be a part of what we're doing tonight. We want to be a part of the future. Commitment, looking for a win-win partnership, developing that respect and that trust. Environmentally responsible, I talked about that. Proactive on our technicals. Andre is very big about not just turning in minimal type of things, but things that are going to make a difference in the long term. And we consider our responsibility to also help fix some of the other past. I just can't do that overnight. We can't fix all those other things overnight. From a financial share standpoint, we'd like to think we're an asset there. We're putting right now in over $40 million a year into the tax base, and as local and on the federal standpoint. It's just from time to time people have to realize too there's time frames that go with those. And we say that to the same thing, not only to the local, also to the federal, also to the provincial, but also to First Nations. We've got to be together on what we're asking, and we have no problem with suggestions that people give us, but we just can't draw out. Sometimes we have timelines we have to work with, also from a business standpoint. Community responsibility, we feel very strong on that from an employment standpoint and also from projects. Partnering collaboration on sensitive issues. There's a number of sensitive issues out there that we're trying to work through that didn't happen overnight. We understand that. Whether it's caribou, whether it's water, whether it's reclamation, those are improvement areas that I'll just take on a shot that the industry should do better, and we are committed to be a part of that, should and will do better. Communication, openness, again, I'm hoping to come in and share with kind of, at least let's do this annual, my request would be that way, to be able to come in and share kind of where we see us going and some of the challenges ahead of us, and building Stronger Tomorrow is one of those things that we should be able to all share together. You know, and I think as we look back at 2017, and we've been here for 16 months now, I think we've had an uncompromised safety results, so we're very proud of our people. From a direct job standpoint, by the end of the year, we'll be running about 850 employees. If you look at the 4-to-1 ratio, which is what our type of surface mining usually does, that means there's about 4,000 plus families in the area that are depending, and this is what we share with our employees. It's important for all of our employees to realize that we've got 4,000 other families out there that are counting on that we're doing our job and doing it right. Wage and compensation will address it once we're full speed, about $120 million a year. Federal, provincial, community, and financial support to the First Nations groups, all those together, is about $40 million a year. Investments, last year we invested about $102 million of cash back into the operation. And when the market was up, that was one of the things that we made it ask out of commitment out of our investors, is not to take any money out of the company for the first 12 months, and they did that. It didn't initially look like that was going to be a challenge, because if the market stayed where it was, we would have lost money. We actually had budgeted to lose money. With the market that we were blessed with, the decision was to put the money back into the company to be able to strengthen it up and to actually reduce some of our debt, and we did do that. And this year, for example, right now the budget's been passed. We've actually been passed to spend $104 million back in this year. So that's going to continue to help us drop our costs, because we have an efficiency standpoint, and for the safety improvements that we also have plans to work on. Transportation costs, to give you a little bit of feel for those numbers, $275 million. And that's between trucking, rail, and port cost. And then supplies and services, $385 million. Right now, we're running about 85% of that is all BC companies. So we're very proud of that number. We track that, because I feel like that's a responsibility not only do we have to the local communities, but also to even to the Dawson and Fort St. John and Prince George areas also. And I'd like to end by just saying, a year ago I addressed you all and told you we had a lot of plans. We had a lot of commitments that we plan on showing you that you can count on and we could respectfully pay out. And I feel like that it's very much the successes of 2017 has been a win-win, not only from the Canuma employees, but also to our communities, but also to the government to trust us to give us a chance. We bought this out of bankruptcy. To our First Nations partners, it's very much an example of what can happen when industry works with the government, with the community. So I really very much think this is a proud time to be able to share that we don't have to fight. What we can do is we can work together. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll be open for any questions. I don't even want to look at my watch, but I imagine I violated.
I wasn't fine either. Thank you very much, and it sure doesn't seem like it's been just 16 months. I gotta keep going back over that, because you guys have accomplished so much in that time. I credit your employees. I think I said that in that deal I gave you. But boy, they've done a lot. And you know what? You've had me over to your office there a couple times to meet some of the people from Nippon Steel, and I thought a real full circle is when we were sitting out at CN there and we were talking about the coal and they said. You said one of your customers, Nippon Steel. They said, well, that's where we get our steel from. That's the best steel in the world. I thought, right on, you haul it out on the rail, you bring the rails back here and send them down to Sweden from the same stuff. It's awesome. And any council got anything like that? Councilor Hong?
Yeah, thanks for coming in, Mark. I'm sitting up here and I'm shaking my head. I don't know if you see me shaking my head up here, but it's not in anything negative. It's just I'm blown away, literally blown away. You came in here a year ago, said what you guys were going to do, and you're right. A lot of us were skeptical about it, but you've done that and more. And you say you want to be a blessing to the community. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that you have been a blessing to the community. We hope you're a blessing to the community for another 100 years. It's been fantastic with what you guys have done so far, and friends of mine that are employed with you, and family, and the community members, the parents on my hockey teams, and it's fantastic. Just a couple of quick ones to you there. Are there any bottlenecks that you see for the mining operations going forward, and anything in particular that the District of Tumbler Ridge can help you guys out to achieve your goals?
You guys have been very responsive, not only on the CN issue. We've had a couple trucking things came up that not really sure where they came from or whatever. And some of it was cleared up, maybe some wording from the past. I'd like to think we're past some of that. We do have one proposal in for an alteration on truck route. You guys were also helpful on a letter on and I'm gonna have faith that Victoria is gonna be reasonable on that. So I think we're in good shape on that. We do have some other permitting things coming up that's just kind of standard business. I don't have anything unusual coming in. But we've always been able to have open doors with the council and the mayor, and I just like to think we're gonna continue to be able to have that. Chetwynd has also done the same thing. So I think, I think one of the things that's come out, and I've heard this a number of times at Victoria at some of our meetings, is that they very much feel like that supporting us has been us. It's not been one group against another when you're talking about Northeast. And I guess it's my little plug to be able to say, hey, we stick together. Because I think we can take care of our environment and take care of the economics together. And I think that's one of these we're saying. So I appreciate that offer. I think we've had a good track, well, I know we've had a great track record, and I continue to hope that we'll continue to do that.
And like community-wise, are you guys having any problems with finding enough accommodations for people and houses and all that type of stuff? We thought that we had a lot of that to offer a year ago, and is it still the case at this point now, like to find places for people to stay and stuff?
Yes,
Okay,
it's been real good. And there's been a number of people that have been very open about sharing about what the availability is. That's a challenge that obviously Chetwynd has compared to you all, and that's been to the benefit of the whole area, but it also very much the benefit of Tumble Ridge. And I think as we look up to those numbers, that 120, I think I came in and did a little review mid-year, and I didn't estimate us being able to do that many from Tumblr this year. I thought the majority was actually going to come from Chetwynd, but I think because it's been easier for people to find and expand in Tumblr, I think that's going to open up some more of that opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilor Ty.
I'd like to congratulate you on not only your financial successes, but also be able to mine in a safe and responsible manner. And the presentation was great, but there's a couple of other little things there that went out to Chetwynd the other night there and watched the Battle of the Mines, the hockey tournament, and what they brought to the food bank in the way of food and money was a great success, as well as a great hockey game. So there's a lot of little things to take place other than what you described here tonight.
Thank you. And that's part of the Pay It Forward program. I'll just kind of share what you're talking about there. Is we had the first hockey game over here about 2 months ago, and as entrance you had to bring something for the food bank, and then we had kind of the rematch over in Chetwynd this last weekend, and overall if you put them all together we had about $1,800 come in. We split between the food bank here and the food bank at Chetwynd, and about 15 carts of food. Some of it I imagine you probably would have recognized. But it's been a blessing to be able to share that back. And I think not only with Canuma, but what I'm as proud of as anything is when a hockey team gets a bunch of dads, and I don't know if you were drafted on that or not, but when they go around and they shovel driveways for some elderly people in town. And I heard the story that when an elderly person came out and they said, "Here's some money for your hockey jersey," they said, "No, this is Pay It Forward." And that to me was just about as big a compliment as you could get. And I compliment everybody involved with that, because that's what this is all about. It's Pay It Forward.
Yeah. Just as yesterday, Brule needs some better hockey players.
I heard that. They lost both games, so they feel that too.
All right, I'm glad to see Andres sitting there. He's my new neighbor, and he rides a Victory, so we'll get along. The other thing I just wanted to mention was that Walk the Talk award that you got in CoForum. It is so, and I've heard so many people say it went to the right company. Now we got to give that award to other business industry and businesses, and it's going to be hard to keep up with what you get, with the level you guys have, the bar you set to get there. It's going to be tough. So we're going to be looking that way. But thanks a lot, and thanks for your presentation. It's been a wonderful 16 months. Like the council house is another 100 years would be great.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next we go to 5.2, Dave Price and Paula Hoots, and Chris, I guess, for library. Welcome, we can probably find another chair.
I'd like to.
Nice to see you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for inviting us to present to you today. Please bear with me. I thought my grandchildren finished sharing colds with me when I was in Ottawa, but apparently I picked something up in Tumblr too. Anyway, I'll try and get through it. I'm not going to do our usual presentation this evening with all the bells and whistles. We do have a set of slides running while I'm speaking that will remind you of some of the activities with which we serve Tumbler Ridge's residents and visitors. You have a copy of our 2018 budget as approved by the Library Board. As usual, it is prudent and reflects actual amounts with the exception of our salary and employer cost lines and a $4,000 capital expense for new chairs at the library tables. There's also a $500 reduction in our provincial grant. A library is all about its people. Without a strong, well-trained, consistent staff, services go downhill quickly. Our library currently has a terrific staff, but it's getting harder to recruit and retain those staff as we compete with other industries and organizations in Tumbler Ridge who have higher salaries. This will only get worse as the town once again experiences growth. And I hate to use the word worse when we hear great positive news like Kanuma has. So I mean it in a different sense. Tumbler Ridge Public Library is recognized as an innovative library in the province of BC in that we demonstrate and meet the provincial target of responding to our community's needs. We do that with a dedicated staff of 3 full-time, 1 regular part-time clerk, and 3 on-call clerks. We also currently have 3 student pages. Our circulation and attendance figures continue to increase with about 250 daily visits. We offer a wide variety of ongoing programs for children and for adults. These include lap sits, story time, ping pong, passionate readers book club, itchy feet, the after-school snack program, the summer reading club. In addition to traditional library services, we continue to provide employment support, assistance accessing government applications online, faxing employment packages, and resumes. In order to continue to provide all of the services our residents look for, the library must be able to recruit and retain employees who are committed to the library and its services. Since our salaries are significantly lower than other employers, our staff, who often have more than 1 part-time job, will respond more favorably to the one that pays more, resulting in a shortage of staff at the library. Skills required to provide our services are broader than those typically required in a library. All staff, including entry-level clerks, must have customer service and clerical skills. In addition, they need to be very comfortable with computer and technology in order to assist our clients with accessing printing services, Wi-Fi, and e-books. This request is an attempt to catch up with other local salaries and follows a successful effort by Dawson Creek Public Library a couple of years ago to bring their salaries up to market levels, which compare with the ones you've been given. Other libraries in the north are also in the process of upgrading their salaries. Because Tumbler Ridge is once again looking at a period of significant economic growth and is in a good financial position at this time, the library board feels that now is the right time to make this request. We appreciate council's ongoing support. I'll now turn the microphone over to David Price, one of our trustees. Thank you for your attention.
Your Worship, members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the board and staff of the library. Many of you know me from previous initiatives I've been on, but it's been a few years, I think, since I gave you the benefit of looking at my face. So I will keep it short, 5 minutes. But I wish to express what I feel represents the principal considerations that we believe you should give serious thought to before voting on our proposed budget. Some of these things will echo what Paula has said, but I prefer to think of it as reinforcement, not repetition. It's easy in a situation like this to get sidetracked by comparisons that may not be relevant. For example, comparisons with levels of support by other Northeast municipalities is of no relevance when you consider that they receive substantial support from the regional district. We don't, as we have no rural properties, which makes us exempt from such support. For Paula and our senior staff, comparisons with other similar positions in the provincial library environment can get sidetracked by issues of the size of other municipalities or the number of books in their facility. It is our position that there are only two legitimate comparisons. The first is productivity. One of our board members currently serves as president of the BC Library Trustees Association. She informs us that the Tumbler Ridge Library is recognized provincially as one of the most innovative and community-responsive libraries in the province. This is a tribute to Paula and her senior staff. As a bit of an aside, Chris Norbury, one of our full-time staff, spoke to BC Library Association at their conference and then was asked to speak again at a conference called Beyond Hope, which takes place in Prince George and represents all of the northern libraries. We are enjoying and benefiting from this talent and devotion at a compensation rate, for Paula example, that is approximately 33% less than that of her colleagues in similar positions. Were we to lose the services of her and or her senior staff, we would have no chance of replacing that talent at the current rates or even anything close to. If you want talent, you need to recognize and compensate for it. That's the way of the world. For our junior staff, we are caught in what is referred to as a revolving door syndrome. Less than adequately qualified staff apply and are hired because we can't attract a more qualified staff. And we spend time and resources training them, and then they leave because of an opportunity to make $3 or $4 an hour somewhere else, and we're back to square one. This is inefficient at best. The second comparison would be with Dawson Creek, where they have already recognized the need for compensation adjustment and have already acted accordingly. Secondly, further on the issue of productivity, our staff are doing more than most library staff do. And I'd like to give a parallel here. I know that a couple of weeks ago, Northern Health was here to discuss their efforts and enhancements to replace the 3 ER nurses that recently left. Judging from the reports that I heard, what they failed to discuss was the reason that the nurses left in the first place. With every reduction in service that we've seen over the past few years, extra duties were passed on to those nurses. When the home care nurse left, it fell to the ER nurses. Public health used to come a couple times a week, that has fallen to ER nurses. Mental health and addiction services have been reduced, that has fallen to the nurses. And this was done with no recognition, no appreciation, and no compensation. They simply got exhausted from carrying the extra load and left. In short terms, they wanted a life. Similar reduced supports have been addressed to the advantage of the community by our library staff. The youth programs that Paula referred to engage them in activities that are educational, constructive, develop social skills, and along with providing at least one nourishing snack per day, which is an issue in a lot of the homes. Also, employment services, again, as Paula referred to, are provided to individuals wishing to work in local industry, but who lack computer skills and, in some cases, even basic English literacy skills. They're required to create a resume, scan licenses and tickets, and submit this information to potential employers. It would be easy to say that these services should be provided by social service and employment service agencies, but the simple truth is, they're not. So our staff are providing these community supports. The third thing that I would like you to think about prior to voting is that with the provincial legislation pending that will increase the minimum wage, resulting in our having to do this anyway, does it really make any sense to wait? All that will accomplish is risk losing our top-end talent and devotion and continuing the revolving door syndrome for another 2 or 3 years. The fourth and last item I'd like you to think about is this. All municipalities need to have reserves to deal with tough times or unforeseen circumstances. We get that. However, if the figures that I've seen are accurate, the town now has a reserve that is 67% higher than it was when the mines closed last time. And I'm even led to understand that Tumbler Ridge now rates as one of, or perhaps the wealthiest municipality in BC. And I don't need to tell anybody that municipal governments are a non-profit society. So we need to bear that in mind. Furthermore, we are now entering a growth period with mines reopening, and we just had a wonderful presentation from Mark concerning that. And other industry moving ahead. I understand that we will potentially be seeing hundreds of new industrial employees coming to town in the next few months, who coincidentally will be adding to the extra support services needed. So one other parallel. It's the issue that the town faced a few years ago of the building of a new visitor center. It was very controversial, and the mines had just closed, and there was a lot of real mixed feelings whether the town should proceed or not. However, the town moved ahead with it. Last summer, my wife and I were asked to do some data reporting for the Visitors Information Center. And when I went in early September to report August data, I was informed that in a 2-month period, June and July, I believe, the Vic had registered 1,600 more tourists than that same period in 2016. Not 1,600, but 1,600 more in a 2-month period. Clearly, going ahead with the Vic was a favorable decision. We are now again in a growth period and have a substantial reserve, and so we would like to suggest that this would be a propitious time to make the necessary changes to the library compensation package. We ask that you give these issues serious consideration before you vote on the budget. Thank you for allowing me this audience.
Thank you for your presentation. Any of council have any questions? Councilor Hall?
So between 2017 and 2018 proposed budget, you've got an increase to your salary and wages of $128,376, about 58% increase. Is a 58% increase in line with what you're talking about?
Yes.
That seems, it just seems like a huge number to anyone else.
What it shows is how underpaid we've been and for how long a time we've been underpaid.
It also, Paul spent a great deal of time working out what the increases would be, just to even get up to and match the legislation that's coming into place anyway. So it's a two-part issue. Part of it is what we're gonna have to do, and the other is what we really should do if we want to retain the talent and level of community services that we're enjoying from district people.
It seems really scary. I know it was really scary when I calculated it too, but it's truly, it's a reflection of how low the salaries have been.
Yep.
Councilor Scott?
Thank you for a great presentation as well. When will the legislation be in effect? I'm not sure.
Right now, the provincial government has announced the minimum wage increases. They go into effect, the first one goes in June of this year. $1.30 an hour increase to $12.65. $1.20 increase to that a year from June. And then the subsequent 2 years, a 75-cent increase and a 60-cent an hour increase, making this the total $15.20 in 2021. I'm personally a little skeptical of those numbers, not the dollars, but the implementation plan. Currently, Alberta has already gone ahead. Alberta's sitting at $13.60 with minimum wage going to $15 middle of 2019. Ontario's at 14 now, going to 15 January 1st. We're in that same market. I know my personal, on the side business, our shipping costs went up 25% in direct response to the minimum wage increase in Ontario because of the cost to couriers and Canada Post. So I think that because it's going to trickle across the country, I do think that the minimum wages, if they're going to do an increase, they will be implementing before 2021.
And it's more favorable to go in a lump sum like this rather than increments?
Yes, because we are so far below the market in terms of being able to compete for employees in Tumbler Ridge. Maybe it'd be different if I were in Fort St. John or in Hudson's Hope, because somebody from Taylor might apply. But the reality is, we don't get people from out of town applying. So we've got a very closed market. And as Mark just indicated, I know he's looking for skilled help, but I know he'll be looking for clerical help too. And it is a competition. And with our salary where it is, it's really difficult.
And then just one other comment. I know the extra community support services you provide are things like resumes, basic computer skills. Is that something that we're duplicating with the college? Like, is there competition? No. Okay.
No. And in fact, Chris, can you enlighten them? We're not doing as many resumes. We're doing more of the employment.
Like hiring packages, right? A lot of people, most people don't actually own a PC at home. They might have a tablet or a cell phone, and some of the issues come up with is that once you plug in your email, username, and password in your phone, that's it, right? So they come in with a phone. Okay, I need this application package filled out. Okay, that's no problem. Now we offer that hands-on. Absolutely, let's sit down, let's figure it out, and almost fight with the devices, and that is definitely a service that is unique in Tumbler Ridge. We'll drop whatever we're doing because that's the priority, right? To that person, that's the most important thing in their world right now is to, this is my doorway into my better life. So.
And we do have the scanning facilities and the printer and the fax to get all of that package out for them when they are working from their handheld.
Okay, and I do know that is something that's important to individuals applying for jobs because I actually was in ICBC today at Hub, and they don't take applications other than online.
It's mostly done through HR departments now,
Yeah.
so a lot of people that's an unfamiliar navigation process.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McKay.
Yeah, I do want to point out, just because we have a large reserve, I mean, it went there, that's years it took to get that, and it's there for a purpose, and as we're going to see here, paving can sure take care of that in a hurry. But I do know that, like, from the time I've seen, specifically yourself, Paula, when you came here, you've made some remarkable changes in the library. You've really turned it around. It's night and day compared to what it used to be. And the programs you offer, when you didn't, there's a lot you didn't cover everything you do there, and I know that. I mean, just the adult services alone, single moms applying for government services, which you'd mentioned a little, Chris, but it goes on and on. But in the time I spent with the board, I really did get an eye-opener on just the services that are covered for children, everything. And like I say, although I don't buy into the, because we have the reserves, I do think that you should be paid the same as your peers. And that's something that I think that council has to look at. And so, thanks for bringing everything forward.
Thank you, Your Worship. Paula, can you tell me, in your salaries and wages over the past, since 2014, can you tell me what you're doing for wage increases per year, or is that employee increases? How many employees do you have, say, in 2017 compared to 2014?
Hard to do. I've had one person with 2 maternity leaves in that period. So we've had one person where I've had the full-time person off and I've been filling with part-time. So there's been changes there. Also, we do a 2% cost of living annually that's approved in our budget each year. So that would reflect some of the discrepancies, and the mat leave would definitely make the number look different.
Okay, how many employees do you have again?
I do anywhere from 9 to 12, depending on the pay period, because what I've been hiring recently are on-call casual in order to have the flexibility that I need to cover the hours. And so it depends whether they work a shift or not. So my payroll that goes in is anywhere between 9 and 12 people. And that includes 3 students, 2 of whom are under 14. And that would be like their 3 hours or 6 hours a week.
Yeah, thank you. I guess on-call casual, that's if people are having full-time employment, it's easier to retain those people, and
But to cover the hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can't afford, right now, we can't afford to do full-time. Or full-time, because then we pick up benefits as well.
Okay.
Right now, the on-call casual are getting their 4% in lieu also. That's included in that number, in the employer costs. Is where the 4% in lieu would be.
Thank
So
you.
you've got 2 lines that are actually different. The salary line and the employer costs. And I'd invite any of you to come, and I'm not gonna get into specifics in a public meeting that's on YouTube, but come and visit me, really. I'm happy to talk to you, to show you anything.
Councillor Casey?
Thank you, Worship, and Paula, thank you very much for attending our council meeting. I have no doubts that we've had an opportunity to have a discussion once or twice, and I have no doubts in my mind, from where I'm coming from and for my vote, that the library and the importance that it plays and the role it takes within a community is absolutely of prime importance, and to have to scrape relative to wages and so forth to keep up with the competition of other industries and so on and so forth. It seems that there's a record of yes, you hire the people not necessarily fully qualified for the job, but they take it as an interim step. As more opportunities come available in Tumbler Ridge or elsewhere, they leave and so forth. And you're basically constantly looking for good, solid folks that would perhaps like to work in the library, make that a career, and so forth. So from a community perspective, from where I'm coming from, whatever money that we put into it will bear us dividends in the long run. And I thank you very, very much for coming forward. It does, as far as the money that you were looking for and that you were presented a case for, I think is well warranted. And I think the long term will prove that out to be. So I certainly am on side with what you're saying for where my vote is.
Thank you. If I could add something to that. I forgot completely that in libraries, there's a statistic that's used at budget time, and the saying is that a library isn't about the books, a library is the people. And what it means is that your budget for a library should include 85% of your budget as compensation for your staff, compensation and benefits for your staff. Because without the people to provide the service in the library, it doesn't matter how many books you have, those people aren't going to find them. So when I did, just at the end of the year, playing with year-end numbers and QuickBooks, and I did a chart, and it showed the right proportions, but when I looked at the percentage for salaries, it was only 65% rather than the 80 or 85% that it should be. And that was another eye-opener for me. I mean, I just kind of go along, but when I looked at that, and I know how hard it is and how few resumes I've been getting, it just kind of brings everything into perspective. So thank you very much for your time.
Councillor Howard, you had something?
Yeah, I think I'll do what you said there. I'll take you up. I'll come over and see you in the library there.
Absolutely.
Divulge the information a little bit better there, and that's what I need for to satisfy what I'm looking for. Is I need some better numbers there. I need to see where you guys come up with the increase. So.
Please call before you come over, just in case this keeps me home tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be over there for a second. Where will that?
And wear your mask.
Councillor Kikuka?
Thank you. Thanks very much for coming in and enlightening everybody. I mean, I sit on your board and I know what you do for the town in regards to all the stuff you throw on, and in the library, and the people who help out, and we've had a discussion. Can you tell me what your starting rate is?
Starting rate
Yeah.
for the clerks?
Yeah.
$15 an hour.
What about student starting rate?
Oh, their minimum wage.
And you give a 2.2% increase every year?
Just a 2%.
2%, and is that to the students as well?
They get minimum wage.
Throughout,
It only changes if they take the summer job, and that's usually because it's slightly higher, and it's for the 8-week summer job period, and we usually have a Canada Summer Jobs grant to support
once
it.
that's over, do they flip back?
One of, yeah,
So how many students do you have working with you out of the 12? How many students are working with you out of the 12 that are?
3. Right now, 3. It depends how their schedule turns out, you know what it's like.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sometimes you have 6, it just depends.
So with besides maternity, what's your turnover rate then for the year in 2017?
You know what, a lot of it's a blur, but I know that I've had at least 3 people that have been hired that have sort of worked for a week or 2 and then said, I can't, the scope is too big, I have to leave. I can't help you.
Okay. And again, I really do appreciate what you guys do, and you know, I've been in and had a chat with you, Paul. I'll be back in just to
Absolutely.
get some of the information.
Anytime.
I did ask you about supplying a couple of things. Are we working on that still?
I do have numbers, again, come see me.
Are you willing to email it to us?
No,
Okay, good enough. Okay, good enough. No,
because I
that's
think it's out of context,
fine. No problem.
and it's apples against oranges.
Yep.
So I'd rather discuss it. Okay?
Yeah, I appreciate what the library does for this town. I know, every time you're over there, there's lots of people in there, lots of kids, and we do want quality people working with our kids, I feel. And, but this is a tough pill to swallow too.
But if we don't do it now, you're likely to see me in 2 years saying, I've had to close the library 2 days a week because I can't get any people to work. So I'm trying to sort of have some foresight.
Thank you very much. One more?
Yeah, just one more, just because I did have a discussion with Paul, and I just want to bring it forward on that. I mean, you're asking for that, but if it was smaller, you would still take that as well.
I'd always take smaller, but I'll come back immediately for the rest.
You mean in 2019?
No, I mean immediately.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us to correspondence. First one, 6.1, Brent Middleton, Northwood Kitchens. Yes, Councilor.
For discussion.
Seconder? Go ahead.
Let me just find my notes here. I guess it's kind of to do with looking for some answers on this. I've had the same question that Mr. Middleton has had as well. So there's a limited size on a garage in Tumbler Ridge that's been about 24 by 26 with 10-foot walls. Is there any background on that from staff of why we limited the size to 24 by 26? What was the rationale back when they looked at this? Is there any notes on this or any way we can look back and figure out why they thought that is the biggest garage that you could do in Tumbler Ridge?
We could go and see if there's any specific notes as to why those numbers were chosen. I doubt we would find anything, but it would most likely be around just the aesthetics of the community. You don't want a garage that's 20 feet tall blocking views, it looks out of place. The main constriction on the size of garages has been to make sure they're accessory buildings.
This has come up a few times since I've been councilor, it's been a lot of years. And that's normally the reasoning was to keep the town all looking the same and keeping the views so that it's supposed to be a low crime town, is the way they designed it. And that was the thing that I was with it, because there was things like you couldn't put a porch in front of your house.
Yeah, while I can certainly appreciate that those are reasons why they were put in whatever it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and I understand the idea on height restriction so that you're not blocking the view of somebody behind you or in front of you.
you know, I do not understand why the garage should be limited to 24 by 26. You don't look at just the size of the garage. I mean, you could also look at the amount of land that somebody has, and if you're taking up too large a percentage of the lot, which is also a restriction in our bylaws, which would actually make the size of the garages quite a bit larger from the sizes that we have, of the lot sizes. I just wonder if it's something that maybe, you know, we're looking at this as a one-off case, in Mr. Middleton's case here, but maybe we should look at the bigger picture, and maybe we look at doing something to offer options again in Tumbler Ridge. We talked about housing options in Tumbler Ridge and giving different things to people. Not everybody wants a house that's 35 years old that looks exactly the same as everyone else's house. Some people may want a garage that's slightly larger. I mean, from 30 years ago to now, the stuff that we've had in our garages has completely changed. You know, 30 years ago, nobody had a side-by-side that's the size of a car. You know, not everybody, 30 years ago had a camper that's 35 feet long. You know, there's, snow machines and golf carts that we would like to have moving down the road. And there's a lot more things that are in our community now than there were 30 years ago, when a lot of this stuff came in place. So that in mind, I think that's something we should come back to. We should have a P&P on this at some point and see if there's any way that we can make this, expand the size of it maybe more in line with lot sizes rather than just a specific size. Heights make total sense to me. I understand why we wouldn't go any higher than that. But on Mr. Middleton's one-off case here, here he is asking for a larger garage. He wants to eventually get to a point where he can employ more people and maybe take on an industrial lot. And he's asking to do something it's 12 feet longer on the front of his garage. He's got plenty of room. It's his yard. I mean, I'd love to see us be able to. I don't know how the process works on this. I've only been on council for 3 years. I don't know how we do it. But if there's some variation or a change that we need to make to it on this one-off case, I totally support what he's doing here. He's got a unique business that's succeeding in Tumbler Ridge and it's growing. It's the type of things that we're trying to foster in Tumbler Ridge, is these unique one-off things that can't be done in every other community, and provides real employment and real jobs in Tumbler Ridge. It's legitimate. It's a great community benefit. Not every community you go to has a custom cabinet maker in the community. He's actually done a renovation on our house. We did a closet with Mr. Middleton. Does fantastic work. His son works for him, who's doing an apprenticeship, I believe. But him putting a bigger garage also means higher property values and higher taxes for the district of Tumbler Ridge. So to me, it's a win-win situation all the way around. And like I say, if bylaw has any complaints, I'd like to hear those if we do a P&P as well, because that's the only negative I could see in this, is that perhaps the guy puts up a little more work in his garage than everybody else does. But to me, I think it's a step in the right direction for business, and I think that's the way we should be headed.
The way it would be done is, I think we should be asking staff to come up with a report, because there's some variances that would be needed. I think Mr. Walton, there's 3 different variances that would be involved in this, so we could ask staff to come with a report, then we can have a good discussion.
And so would that be a report just on Mr. Middleton's case?
It would be on this.
Okay.
It's on a case thing right now. We could look at our bylaws later.
Okay.
And make changes if we want.
Okay.
Councilor Scott.
Is this something also where we should be taking the neighbors into consideration and is that something we do as well? Because it is going to be a business in like a neighborhood community.
I think that would be part of what staff would go through.
Okay.
I would think.
But I do
Paul,
think that.
Would they be polling the neighbors to see?
There wouldn't be a polling. What you would have to do in this case, what it appears, and I'm going to have to do some more investigation before I tell council for certain, but what it appears is that there's a home industry taking place here. That is not permitted by our bylaws. So if council wanted to allow this home industry to take place, you're going to have to issue a variance to the zoning, which means anybody who could be reasonably affected by it needs to be notified, and council is going to need to hold a public hearing at a public council meeting in order to do this.
That'd be the proper way to do it. Okay. Scott.
Okay, so is the home industry different than the home-based businesses that are going on right now? Because we've got a lot of home-based businesses.
Yes, in our zoning bylaw, home businesses and home industries are defined separately. So home businesses are permitted in residential zones in certain instances. Home industry is completely banned within the District of Tumbler Ridge in residential areas. So that's again why council will need to issue a variance in this case if it wants to proceed with allowing him to do this. What it appears is that council's gonna have to issue a variance to let him keep doing what he's currently doing.
Okay.
I went over to see Mr. Middleton today and took a look at what he's talking about there, and his description here is really accurate and exactly what's going on. The workshop is done extremely tasteful. I mean, and not even visible for most of the neighbors' areas. But when you walked inside, it is chock block full of projects from in town, out of town. This guy is busy, 2 employees looking to hire more. And I agree, this should hit a P&P as soon as possible because this is a guy that's got good business going, and maybe some things like that should be the variances. If I've got one concern, it might be the sound. Other than that, though, everything else looks like it complies, and it should be. I think it should be looked at as quick as possible.
Councilor Kirby.
Thank you, Your Worship. Over the years, we've had several people coming in and asking for building variances on their garage and whether they would like an extra shed. And I think just, you know, I congratulate Mr. Middleton for having a successful business, but I think we should really look at the whole bylaw before we start looking into this one instance, because to change it for one, there's gonna be a lot of people, you know, coming in about that. So maybe it's first to even consider this. I wouldn't consider this right now. I would look at our bylaws and see what we can do and see if it's, you know, how it benefits the community, not just one specific business.
Yes.
And I mean, I could be persuaded to that way as well, Councillor Kirby, but I in no way want to limit Mr. Middleton at this time while we take 6-8 months to debate a bylaw and come up with a plan that we change it. If, as long as it's not going to affect the business as it is, and he's able to continue on while we're trying to make a decision on it, I agree that we could come up with something that's better for everyone. But these are the exact types of things that we want to try to do. We want to try to create new business and different things in town to revitalize something that's been stagnant for a long time. And these are the types of things that somebody takes a chance on and it's working for them. And I'd like to congratulate them and do whatever we can to help that type of business.
I'd like to get a motion on the floor to ask staff to do a report on it and bring it back to a P&P where we can discuss it.
That motion on the floor.
Okay, second. Councilor Cook. Okay, any more discussion on it? Councilor McKay, did you have something?
No, I was gonna also second it.
Okay.
My only question would be why council forwards this to a P&P rather than, if you're getting a staff report based on these, it would probably be better to take it to a regular meeting so you can make decisions rather than pushing the decision into, I mean, if we took it to a P&P, the earliest you're gonna get a chance to make a decision would be April.
So what would staff's idea kind of be on it here? Would be to look at what can we do for the overall picture to increase not only garage sizes, it would be the porches or is it an all encompassing amount, or are we talking just about Mr. Middleton's case, or which one are we talking about?
So I think that council's got 2 different issues that you need to deal with. One is what you want to do with the building bylaws, which is, I think the process is probably generous on the short side on what you actually is going to be involved in that. But on the other hand, we have to deal with this request and the fact that I don't believe it conforms, the current practices don't conform to the bylaws that we have right now. So this is something that council is going to need to make a decision on. Now, what staff is going to do would be to take this back, evaluate it against our bylaws, and give you a recommendation on whether or not, 1, does this meet our bylaws, and 2, if it doesn't, what would be the recommended course of action? And to give council a heads up, the recommended course of action from staff is that we follow the bylaws as we have them. We'll provide you the different options to do what council would like to do if that's not how you'd like to proceed, but that's what staff needs to get done right away. Because I don't want to be in a position where I go out and have my bylaw enforcement officer enforce shutting down a business just to have council the next week turn around and say, no, that's not what we want to do. We want to try and make it consistent, right?
Should we be making a motion to supply him with a variance right now? Because it sounds like right now, as it stands, he's not in compliance with having a home industry in the garage.
You can't issue a variance right now. One of the variances you could issue the variance on the building permit, that's not an issue, but the variance regarding zoning needs to have a notification period for those who would be affected as well as a public comment period. And that's why I'm saying pushing this off to a PEP. The earliest you're going to get a decision would be the end of April. You might even be into May by the time you're done that process. So I'd recommend getting this report on the next agenda and then starting the process that you want to do now.
Okay. All in favor of having the report?
So, sorry, I'm just a little confused here.
This is going to the regular meeting. Did we change that?
The motion right now is to go to a P&P. So council, if you want it to go to the next regular meeting, either amend it or defeat this and introduce a new motion.
Just defeat it, I'd rather just defeat it,
Mhm.
get the
Yeah.
right one down.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor? None, opposed? Unanimous? Defeated. New motion. Councilor Kine.
I'd like to have staff prepare a report to be brought to a regular meeting for discussion.
Seconder, Councilor Kravitz. Any more discussion on it? All in favor? Unanimous? Carried. 6.2, Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. Information or discussion?
Thank you, Your Worship. I move for information.
Seconder? Discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? School District 59, request for playground equipment. Information or discussion? Councilor Guy?
Discussion, just a question. I mean, one of the things we're talking about is deeded land.
Seconder,
Sorry.
Seconder,
Yeah.
Councilor, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things that's discussed here, they had mentioned about the deeded land. And is that something that's, that maybe we should be taking a closer look at? Because, whenever a replacement or anything that comes up, and it's the same thing with the soccer field and things like that. It's generally to the district rather than School District 59. Is that something maybe we should take a closer look at, that the costs do go to where they really should be?
Mr. Wall, do you want to elaborate on the discussion we had on this today?
Thank you, Your Worship. So as I informed council, we've been in touch with School District 59, and right now they seem pretty open to replacing that playground. They told me that they won't be able to do it this year. The playground budget is spent. It's something they could do next year. And so I talked to them about how this could look, and what we're discussing, and this is certainly not at a point where any decisions are ready to be made, but that we could gift them both that land and that playground as long as we were to commit to 50% of the playground replacement funding. And so we would give them the land, give them the playground, along with the promise that when they go to replace it in 2019, we would pay for half of the costs. And that would be kind of like what you're talking about, Councillor Mackay, because now that playground wouldn't be the property of the District of Tumbler Ridge, it would become the property of School District 59. They'd be responsible for maintenance, they'd be responsible for replacement when the life cycle came up. I don't know the history of why we ended up with that specific piece of land. My guess was there was a time when the playgrounds were getting built and there wasn't enough funding, so the council of the day said, well, let's build this ourselves. My guess is that's how it came about, but it looks like School District 59 is now willing to take it on. Their other option that they presented was they'd be willing to replace that on their own land. They were talking about the school, and I said that's probably not the best scenario, because I know those, like we have those nice soccer fields over there, but I know that the younger kids use that other field for running around, and they also have the soccer tournaments there for the young kids. And that's where the idea came up. Well, we can just give this to you and you guys can replace it on your schedule. And they seemed to be receptive to that idea.
So do you know the size of the piece of land that we're talking about? Does the piece of land that they would like include the soccer field that we have there now? Because that belongs to the district of Tumbler Ridge as well at this point, right?
We'd have to subdivide it.
So we'd have to split up just the portion that is that park and give that to them around the garbage can area and that, not onto the field.
Yeah, I didn't get into discussions with them about taking over the soccer fields. I can if that's council's direction. I'd be surprised if they wanted to take it on, but I was surprised by the fact that they wanted to take this on, so you never know.
And to me, I think it absolutely warrants more discussion with them. I think originally in our budget, it was a $200,000 line item that came down to a little bit of discussion. We may have saved ourselves $100,000 by gifting them a piece of land and also some of that responsibility off of our staff of having to go and maintain and repair it. So to me, I think that we should continue the conversation and see how, get a map of the size of a piece of land and looking at carving off and see what the costs are to do something like that. But I think it's absolutely warranted to continue the investigation.
Councilor McKay.
Yeah, and that's, I agree. I mean, I think the soccer field should be part of the conversation if that's possible. And not only for the shared costs, but I mean, the liabilities. We've had a couple of those calls there and felt with broken ankles and that type of thing. But, so it'd be nice if that would also enter into the conversation.
I was just gonna touch on that with the playground, that would eliminate liability issues.
How about the high school field as well?
And that to me, I don't think that we should be looking at the soccer fields. I think we should take one step at a time here. Just my own opinion, and I don't think we should look at the soccer fields at this point.
Anything else?
So to be clear, without further direction from council, I'm just going to continue the conversation around the playground area. If council would like me to ask them to take on the soccer fields, I'll need that direction.
Personally, I like the idea of giving the soccer fields away. It's a big piece of land. You never know what the future brings, so. Okay.
Is there any other type of insurance that the school district could get to maybe take that? I mean, they're almost the sole users, other than maybe Whispest and things like that. But any sporting activity that takes place is School District 59. So can they take over the liability part of that?
I doubt if they would, but some discussion you could have it with them at the same time.
About taking over
Liability
soccer fields
not the soccer field.
of the,
Soccer field?
okay, yeah, I'll ask them.
Can't see why they would. And our insurance covers that, right?
Yep.
So I don't know why we're even.
Yeah, just thinking.
discussion.
Right.
Okay, so we'll just stick with the playground? You okay with that? You don't need a motion or nothing, Mr. Wall?
I'll bring it back to council after some more discussions, and if they seem like they're willing, I'll bring a report with a recommendation.
Okay. New business, the 2017 bear season report. Just here for information, but it was glad to see it. A lot of information that I was always wondering about. And I sure like the graph in there where it shows last year we had a lot of a whole bunch of reports right in the beginning of the year, and then it died right off. It says we, the magnet sticker thing that we sent out worked, and when we did it, and I think it's something that we should be doing again this year. Councilor Scott.
Do we need to make a motion to have that go forward, like to redo the magnet at the beginning of the season? Because that did seem to work.
Yeah, Mr. Wall.
It's been budgeted for.
Yeah, and it was an all-encompassing community education program that we weren't doing just the magnets as well, right? But I think it was $3,600 or $3,500. If that's been budgeted for this year, that's one of the recommendations I was going to make. It is a good report. However, there is some stuff missing out of it that I would like staff to continue to follow up on, and if we need to make a motion to do that, I have spoken with Mr. Walker about this.
So the portion that I'm interested in is the actual stuff that comes from the Conservation Office Service. I'd like to know how many bears were actually removed, relocated, or destroyed. The information I've received is that 2 bears were removed and relocated, and there were 3 bears killed. This is not from the Conservation Office Service, but I would like to follow up on that. Primarily being is that the new changes with what's happened in the provincial government with the ban on grizzly bear hunting is, you know, they came in here and told us that they do not relocate bears anymore. They just don't do that. And then we heard by the end of the summer that 2 bears had been relocated in Tumbler Ridge. And I'd like to know what the program is going forward now that there's no official bear hunting or grizzly bear hunting allowed in British Columbia. With the ban on that, we've taken the ability away from hunters to keep the numbers down in our area. But then we're going to allow the Conservation Office Service to come in and eliminate grizzly bears in our community anyways. To me, it doesn't make sense. The government says we're not going to kill grizzly bears, but they're the ones that are in here killing them. You know, a good example in here is in 2017, there were over 600% more grizzly bear encounters in Tumbler Ridge than Chetwynd and Dawson Creek combined. 600% more in our community compared to Dawson and Chetwynd. That's a staggering number. You know, that's the encounters that we have right in our community. Now, if you get out, you talk to the guides will tell you. We sat down during the caribou stuff, and they say they'll go out, they'll see 16, 18 grizzly bears a day when they're taking people out on guided movements. There are grizzly bears everywhere. And I would like to see, you know, us put a motion forward to send a letter to the government asking them to reconsider the ban on grizzly bear hunting in the Tumbler Ridge area. Increased counters over 600% more than the communities Dawson, Chetwynd combined. Lowering the grizzly bear numbers would make the community and backcountry safer for people and would have a significant impact on protecting the threatened caribou population. So I'd like to put that motion forward to send a letter to the government and just take our stand on it, that we don't need as many grizzly bears around here as they may need in Vancouver or Whistler.
Seconder for that motion? Any more discussion on it? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Unanimous.
I'll sit down with you, Jordan, make sure you got the right wording on that when you get an opportunity. Pretty quick, right, Jane?
Okay, grant and aid fee-for-service applications. Recommendation. Councilor Kirby.
Move for discussion, and also
Okay, seconder for discussion. Councilor Mackay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor McPherson. I'd like to make a recommendation, right off the bat, that, council approves the grant and aid and fee for service applications by the TR Cares, Forever Young and TR Days Society. They met policy requirements, and in the total of $104,200, and that we table the TRMF's application till the adequate information is provided.
Discussion on it. Councilor Kirkland.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of putting them all together, I'd like to break them out. One thing I do is I have some concerns there in regards to the TR Day Society in regards to, I believe, I wasn't there at the meeting, but I did get caught up with Mr. Wall in regards, we gave him $40,000. Then they came in a little while later and asked us to put the tent up, the stage up, the snow fence. That was a fee for service or a in kind that we used to supply district staff to do all that. Now we're looking at giving them $90,000. To me, I believe there was a private enterprise that hired, had a stage put up, cost him $5,000. This is almost the same thing if we're not doing it in kind anymore to the district for TR Day Society. My opinion.
So can I just get a little more clarity on that? Like I'm not
100% sure on where we are with Grisfest and Tierra Day Society. I thought they had come in and asked for the money in lieu of in kind, but there were portions they were going to want purchased back from the district of Tumbler Ridge, and I thought that number was settled at 40,000. Is that?
Yeah, it was, in lieu of in kind was $40,000. Now this is, I guess, this 50,000 is on top of that. It's, Mr. Wall?
Yeah, so just, there's a couple things for council's clarification here. So there's three applications that were grouped into the original motion. There's no problem with that. But now that there's been a request from a councillor to separate those out, Mayor McPherson, you need to make a ruling on that, whether or not you see these as one motion or they're separate items and should be three motions. So that's the first thing you'll have to make a ruling on. The second question on the Tierra Day Society, council has approved $40,000 of cash to replace the in-kind that used to be done. You've also approved the in-kind donation of a number of items, which includes the stage setup and fencing, I believe it was, which was approved outside of that $40,000. So those are the two things that have already been approved by council, and what you're looking at today is $50,000 on top of those two approvals.
Okay, I guess we should defeat that motion, and I'll ask for a motion on each one separately.
So there's no need to defeat it. With the request coming from Councillor Kokoka, you simply make a ruling whether or not these are one item or whether they're three separate items.
Okay, it'll be three separate items. On the TR Cares. So I don't need any more motions?
I think it would be
Vote on
good,
each one?
as long as council knows which one you're talking about right now.
Okay, the TR Cares, TR Safe Shelter and Medical Shuttle. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous? Carried. Forever Young Society, operation cost for Villa Hall. Discussion on that. Anybody? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. TR Day Society. Discussion. You wanted to?
Yeah,
Can
so,
I say that again? I didn't.
yeah, so I actually missed the meeting that was brought up. TR Cares came in and looked for, instead of the in-kind of $40,000,
Tierra Days.
or TR Days, I'm sorry, TR Days, that's why I said it before too. TR Days Society, instead of in-kind, they asked for $40,000 in cash, which I totally agree with. That took staff away from doing this. They don't use the community center staff, they don't use public works, they don't have all that. I missed the meeting, they came back in, Councillor Howland and your worship, you both voted opposed to it. They came in and asked for a stage to be put up, I believe, and you said snow fencing, but I also thought there was other tents involved. And my question to that is private enterprise had the stage set up, and it cost him $5,000. Came in, asked for permission, the town sent him a bill for $5,000. So my thoughts on that, I'm not sure what the snow fencing costs. If there's a cost that should come off first. I might be more in favor of supporting that than doing in-kind 40,000 in cash, and another 50 plus we're doing other things now. We're gonna do the stage, we're gonna do all of that, which I believe that the town should do the stage. I just believe the rest of us should be.
Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Scott.
I think everyone had this email sent around as well with some of the breakdowns of the costs. And I think right now the group that's putting this together is trying to figure out what the actual costs are. I don't even know if they've had this information and breakdown supplied to them. But I have been a director on that board for a couple of years. And like on this, I'm seeing that Grisfest was actually being charged for setting up for recycle bins, garbage bins at the RV park, porta potty is going to be a huge learning curve for them to see how much all of these extras are going to be. So I know they have already booked apps, and they're trying to complete that, plus put this on by, things that used to be organized by district staff. So I think we also need to find out how important this event is to the district of Tumble Ridge. And this is its 17th year, and it's like something that Tumble Ridge has been known for, is its festival. So I think they just asked for the tent setup, and I don't think it was the fencing. The stage is critical, because I think it's only district staff that knows how to put that up properly, and we definitely don't want that problem down. But again, I don't think any costs have been supplied to actually doing that, so I might not be in favor of the full amount, but I do want to see them have a successful try at putting this event on.
So just, and I totally agree with you. I'm just not in favor of the idea that we're giving them $90,000 and then we're going to do all these other in-kinds. If I may ask Mr. Wall just a question, I mean, I know that was emailed to me, but I don't think I could open it. Is that correct that we charge GrisFest for RV park setup in regards to garbage cans and porta potties?
We've never charged GrisFest anything.
Part of the in-kind, I apologize.
The GrisFest was always, so what we've done was take a look at the cost to the district to put on GrisFest, and that's what we've supplied, that's what we're asked, and this has been provided to the TR Day Society. So it's not correct to think of it as the district's charged GrisFest for it. We've never charged GrisFest for anything. It was a joint event up until this year will be the first time it's not a joint event. So now to answer that question, if GrisFest asked us to go down and set up these things down at the RV park, yeah, we would charge them for it. That's the direction we've got from council. I think now that there's that separate operations in that specific instance, it would likely be the operators of the RV park who would be doing that. It wouldn't be the district. So just to be clear, this is not a sheet of what's been charged to GrisFest. This is a sheet of what cost the district has incurred in running the event.
But that would be part of that in-kind that was given by council in the past, the 41,000 or whatever it was.
That's
Is that
correct.
what you're saying?
That's correct.
So I know you say don't say that it's charged, but to me, in-kind, I understand that if the RV park needs extra garbage cans and bathroom facilities, that has nothing to do with the in-kind to me for Christmas. The in-kind to me, in my understanding of my vote last year, was what they needed for down at the grounds, or posters, not the added cost to an RV park. That was, I believe, by a private operator last year, but even before that, it was ran by the district.
You're more than able to subtract the costs out of that and give GrisFest less if that's what you want to do, Councillor Kirkoka. It's not that, I mean, it depends at which way you want to take a look at it from. If this was, so let's take a look at it from the idea of this is a completely autonomous group, have never had any traction with the district coming in and saying we want to put on this big festival within the district grounds. You would enter into negotiations with that proponent and say, yeah, we're willing to let you do this, but here are what our costs are going to be. This is what we expect to have back. That's when you get into this, in bigger cities, you have to talk about the RCMP costs that are going to be involved. We don't have that because we don't pay for the RCMP. So the idea that these type of costs would be associated with the event is pretty standard. But again, it's how you look at it. If you want to give GrisFest less and take that out, that's something you're able to do.
Councillor Hall.
Well, I thought the whole point of going to the, getting away from the in-kind was to give them an opportunity to find spots where they could save a little money better than we could. And if they had their own money to deal with. I thought that was the whole point. But that's why I voted against the stage and buffer. I think there should be a cost associated with that. Because now we're basically, it's $100,000 for one weekend, to put on a party for a weekend. And it's always been a tough pill for me to swallow. I just think it is a lot of money to put towards it, but I don't want to see the event canceled or end by no means. But I think the number should be less than $50,000 for this portion here, definitely. But again, that's kind of going against the will of council. right? I think it should be less because I don't think we should be paying for the stage, then you guys already voted that you're gonna pay for the stage, right? So it's kind of catch 22 for me.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think when council voted to see the group take over the planning and organization of GrisFest, I think this year is gonna be a really tough one because the numbers that we have and the budget shown from previous years are really not that accurate. So when you look at putting it on like the weekend event, I mean, it comes down to having Public Works go mow the school ground and weed whip the side hills. Like, to me, that's something that should be done all summer long, and just to pay for, exclusively to get that done for just that weekend doesn't make sense to me. And when you say, just to put on one big party, this event has been something that's been going on. It's our longest running event that brings people into the community. And we do draw a lot of people in the community. It also, gives a place for artists around the region, the Peace region, to come and showcase their talents. We have winners from other festivals that get a spot to play on the GrisFest stage. It gives, it enhances, it brings money into our businesses downtown. We've got, our marketeers, our artisans, they get a chance to have a spot on the ground. And and this is our weekend to showcase. And I think when we say we're pulling to support that, we want a small group to take over what used to be our biggest weekend. This is the weekend our parade happens. It used to be Grizzly Valley Days. Because we had lost some population and employment, we lost our volunteer base. So it's time that, if we see things moving up and the community's starting to grow, it's time to look back to those volunteers. This is time we get back together as a community and figure out how to make this event work. Because at one point, I know owning a business, this was our busiest weekend of the year. And, that money too, you need cash flow. Before, when we were running this program, we had the district to fall back on. If we needed a check cut, the financial department, we had a little bit of a cushion there where we could come to the district and we could get that money if we needed to pay half a cost for a band to come up, then that was there. This is a real learning year. And, this event is a big event. We just in the music industry, we've really gotten a name for ourselves. We've had big acts come in. Our young community members, our youth have had a great chance to see some artists perform that they would never have a chance to see. And I think when we say that we're drawing support on the organization, I think we need to get back into it. And I think, down the road, to see that event grow, we need to pull it off of that grounds, and we have to get an area that, all that setup cost isn't happening year after year, that you come in and the fencing is already there, we have a permanent stage. Look for the future instead of trying to find ways to, save a few bucks. When you're putting an event like this here, you rarely make money on this, but you're showcasing your community, and I think that still should be the key for us, is showcasing our community. And that's why, I've got support for events like GrisFest.
Back in the day, it was just local bands and stuff in the northeast here that came out, and when you said it's a benefit to our businesses, Tom, back in those days, there was no grant. We did fee for in kind. That they used to, the shelves would be emptied by Monday too, and that was without the big bands. I see this as when we first started the grant, it was a one year, one shot deal. I remember that discussion here at PNP, and then it went from there to what we've got today. I would really like to see this started to scale it back. I'm not saying to cut it off. I appreciate what GrisFest does and everything. I think it's good. I would like to see it maybe move that back down to $40,000 for the grant, and have another. I think they should be working towards making this so it pays for itself, so that we do the in kind, and then the rest of it's covered by ticket sales. I think it can be done. Maybe you can't have as many big bands and stuff. Maybe you gotta have more local stuff. I don't know. I don't think that's a bad idea.
I was just gonna make
Scott.
a comment that, Grisfest by no means is getting big bands. They are actually, like, the big bands
They're
are.
expensive, that's all.
Nope, the big bands, the expensive ones are 100,000, 200,000, and Grisfest takes 120,000 of the money and it goes towards the music. So there is always money going back into it. Some of the bands they've attracted are people that end up being big on, like they'll get them in for 10,000, and they are people that it's like, oh my gosh, you guys played Tumbler Ridge. Like Tumbler Ridge is on T-shirts of bands that are touring the world. So, and those are the no-name ones before they go big. So Grisfest has made a name for itself in the music world. It would be like trying to say Scaleback Geopark. Like Grisfest in the music industry is known down in Vancouver and stuff like that. So we are showcasing new and upcoming talent, and there's a lot of music festivals that have died, gone by the wayside, but by no means are we bringing in big acts. We're bringing in quality acts with a really limited budget, and that's part of the music. Then there's the security, like there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and right now it's all falling on volunteers. So they've got to take that money and pay security, play, organize it for a year, and it's all volunteer hours. Get sponsorship, get support, build support that, and draw people to the grounds. So a permanent area for, to decrease the cost of the incomes would be great down the road. But I think it's something that you should have on a P&P going forward, especially after this year, to see how it goes. But the people that are doing it right now have a huge undertaking.
Thank you, Mayor McPherson. One other thing that I didn't see on the list that Councillor Scott was showing is that does the district still plan to provide marketing money to the festival? I know in the past the district has helped with radio and billboard ads. I'm just wondering, that wasn't something that came through on anything. Just wondering if that's still in the EDO budget.
Thank you, and I was able to find that out. So last year we did spend $2,000 on marketing for Grisfest. The year before that it would have been higher because we also did a radio campaign. We don't specifically set aside money for Grisfest. What we do is when our marketing budget is set, which it has not been yet, we take a look at the total marketing needs from the community and we allocate it based on a number of different things. So it is possible that there would be money for the district to market Grisfest this year, the same way we might market a different event, but I'm not going to make any promises right now. If council wants a specific dollar amount to be allocated to that, we should give that direction.
So, yeah, so my question is, I'm just wondering how you lower that number, just by motion? Like, it was something they came in and asked for, so record it's on there. We just lower it by a motion.
Lower the amount that we might spend on marketing for the...
No, sorry, I'm talking in regards to the fee-for-service.
Yeah, you would just, so right now the motion would be to approve the 50,000. You could make an amendment to change it to whatever you wish.
I'd like to make that amendment that we lower it by the $10,000 so to $40,000. That to me would, I say, well, that would, it's to cover the cost of the stage and the other stuff they previously asked for.
Yeah. Yeah, and I got a question there too, just like, like I agree with what Councillor Prokopka is saying, but I kind of feel uncomfortable with that because it was the will of council to pay for the stage. Although I didn't vote for it, I don't think it's wise for us to go against the will of council. Do you know what I mean? Like, council voted that we're going to pay for the stage anyways, and what we're trying to do now is we had that money then. I don't agree with it, but I don't think it's right to go against the will of council here either. So, I don't. If you hadn't used that explanation of what you wanted to do it for, I could have supported it. But you know where I'm coming from. Is there anything that the governance, like
procedurally, there's no issues with decreasing the amount. It's a new request coming in. You can treat it however council wants to treat it. Ethically, that's up to each councillor why you make your vote.
Thank you, Mayor McPherson. I think there is a recommendation on the floor. Could we vote on that?
We've got to
Will you
vote on the
separate it?
amendment. No, we vote on the amendment first.
Okay.
Any more discussion on the amendment?
Can you repeat, your worship, what the amendment is?
The amendment is to lower the grant to $40,000. Everybody, okay, okay, on the, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, the only question again, and I don't know if I've missed it or not, but why do we want to reduce it? I haven't heard the explanation for that.
My reasoning for wanting to reduce it was that this was a one-year deal when we first started it, then it got carried to the point it is now. And I don't think it'll ever go back, it just seems to be going up all the time. I think GrizFest should cover a lot of its own costs. I think that should be something that the GrizFest committee works on, is making it fiscally responsible. I guess is a word I could use, but yeah, I just think that you know, the grandstand and that I'm not even putting into this. I just think it should be lower. I think $50,000. The $90,000 for one weekend, to me, is too much. It's too much for this house. And that's my own personal opinion.
The only other question I've got, Your Worship, I mean, is it because we're losing money on GrizFest? The fact that we're not getting the participants, we're not getting the visitors coming in, and so on and so forth, and therefore the 50,000 should be reduced down to 40. We're going to phase out of it or whatever. Because I've always got the impression that it has been successful. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And it has been a well-attended event that takes place in the summertime. And I just, again, don't quite understand why we would, if you want to cancel it out, if $10,000 reduction is going to make a major difference in terms of being able to attract people and so on and so forth, why not eliminate it entirely? I mean, I've always been under the impression in times that I've gone down and visited that it's a well sold out event attracting people into the community, and I just don't understand why we would try to cut back $10,000 for what?
Well, I don't think it makes money without us putting $90,000 into it. Councillor Shaw.
I recall seeing a job description too, where 80% of one of the positions at the community center was GrizFest. So there was a coordinator that helped do that. So, like I'm saying, right now, with what GrizFest was trying to undertake, there used to be paid people doing a lot of the organizing. So, you know, if the district doesn't want that event anymore, and it's supposed to be scaled back, I'm sure there's a lot of volunteers who would find, you know, something else to do at the time. There's a lot of people that have dedicated their time for a year to put this event off. And the volunteers over the last 4 or 5 years have taken on more jobs to pull this event off. Like right from sponsorship to throughout the year to get this event organized. That's all my comment.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you know, last year I know we when we were doing the budget, we also looked at, you know, maybe not specifically GrizFest, but other things. We looked at that maybe we should just give them the money in this year and see what they do with it. This is their learning year, and it does seem like a lot of money, but maybe they surprise us. Maybe they come back in and say, geez, we did find a lot of places where we could save you some money. We did it for $83,000, rather than pull the carpet out from underneath them. As much as I don't really support it, I don't really feel like pulling the carpet out on them this year. I mean, I'd be more swayed to stick with the $50,000 and just give it a shot for 1 year and see what they can do, and if they can decrease the in-kind costs. What I don't want us to see happen here is the snowball effect that Councillor Kirby was alluding to. I don't want it to see it this year as we're going to do the in-kind of the stage, next year is the in-kind of the advertising, next year is the in-kind of the porta potties, and then we get back to the point where we're doing all the in-kind work again and giving $90,000. I want to get to the point where there's one number, that's it. You know, and the in-kind has to come out of the any time of in-kind has to be paid for. That's what I'd like to see us get to, but I'd just as soon stick with the $50,000 for this year. Give them a shot, see what they can do, and hope for the best.
Thank you, Worship. Just another comment that came up is the fact that it's been successful with people coming in, well attended, all those kinds of things. Does a factor have to be considered as well? How do our businesses do in town during the course of that? I mean, if we're talking $10,000, let's reduce it down the rest of it. And our benefit and our businesses here in town and so forth are really benefiting from it. But that may be strictly chicken feed. I don't know, but it's to me that would be another factor to consider. That there's a lot more benefits that perhaps come to some of the businesses in town. That might help to offset this 10,000.
Councillor Scott?
Gristfest also does a scholarship bursary, and this is the girl that graduated in 2012 that just sent to David the board got that. So she sent a thank you for, Gristfest supporting. And they give back in many ways to the community.
Thank you. Councillor McAdam?
Just wondering what kind of costs have already been committed to that may require those extra funds.
Oh, you mean for Gristfest?
Yeah.
I don't think you'll find that out at this table.
Well, there's some fixed costs like lighting and all that. I mean, and I guess that's like $50,000 upfront. Is that correct? So that's so there is money that's needed to run a successful festival, I guess, and I wonder if that in any way impedes it by removing the $10,000 because it would be kind of a late date to be doing that with a lot of it already been done.
Good point. Okay. So on the amendment, all in favor, move it back to 47.
Could you repeat what the motion is?
The amendment is to reduce the grant to $40,000.
Thank you, Your Worship.
All in favor of the amendment? Two of us opposed? You're opposed, Councillor Scott?
What was the amendment?
Reducing.
Close to the 40,000.
Opposed to 40?
Okay, so that was 5 opposed and 2. 5 opposed and 2 for. So it's defeated. So we're back to the original motion. Any more discussion on it? All in favor of it?
The original motion
Was for the
50,000.
$50,000. All in favor of the $50,000 grant? That's 5, opposed, 2. And that's carried. And part of the motion was to have the museum work with the staff to get that to a yes on the policy. Great. Okay.
Sorry, work with staff, I thought it was, they need to supply proper paperwork to the either policy.
Yeah, well, that's what staff.
So maybe you could clarify what the motion is on this one?
Tumble Ridge Museum Foundation has to comply with our policy.
Okay.
They'll work with you to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
One question on it. Do we have a timeline when that's going to be given to us?
Not sure.
I just found out council wants me to do this, so I'll have to.
Policy.
I'm confused as to what's going on, Your Worship. So
It's
if,
pretty simple to me.
well, I understand what the motion is, but I don't know how I would have an answer to that right now, so,
For the time, well, the timeline is when we get it to a budget. So it's fairly short.
oh, I see, sorry. Yeah, the budget's, March 5th is when, council will be considering the totality of the budget. So if it's gonna get on the agenda for March 5th, it would have to be in, a week before that, so probably, I don't have a calendar, my computer's died. Anybody have a calendar? Oh, there should be one at the back of the agenda. Just give me one.
So Mike always packs calendars, or there's a calendar with him.
What did you?
So March 5th is the meeting, making the cutoff for the agenda February 27th.
Right?
So I just got a question, so we're gonna have staff work with them, or staff's just gonna contact them, know they need qualifications and?
I saw on the application that says see attached, and I never saw anything attached, so That's
I
what seems to be missing there or something.
personally would like clarification on what Councillor Karkoka is saying. By staff work with them, am I helping them draft their response, or am I just going to them and saying,
Give them back the application, say you want it filled out to, so comply with our policy.
thank you?
That's good.
Thank you, Your Worship. We're talking about the Tumber Ridge Museum Foundation now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a couple of things I'd like to mention if that's in order. On the, on page 123, there's a note here looking for the details and so forth. These are being updated to comply with, I think, regulations, and we will share them when they are complete. And my suggestion is that when they are complete, submit them with the new application, together with all other outstanding commitments the Tumber Ridge Museum Foundation made to council. Now, the when taking a look at some of the background on here, we had again previously discussed the fact that council is requesting the Tumber Ridge Museum Foundation work with the Tumber Ridge Global Geopark to produce a plan for council that will address the subpar education, programming, and tourism outreach that has taken place, addresses the needs of the Tumber Ridge Global Geopark's revalidation requirements, and acknowledges that tourism development will be a primary endeavor for the Tumber Ridge Museum Foundation moving forward. Until this has taken place, it is my job to inform you, this came from Your Worship, to inform you that the District of Tumber Ridge will be suspending any fee-for-service or grant and aid funding that has not already been allocated. Now, those are the three items that were to be completed. I haven't seen anything, and I may be wrong, they may have this. I haven't seen any information whatsoever with regards to that work having taken place. In addition to that, so the question is, when will these items be completed? On July 10th, 2017, at a council meeting, the following motion was moved and passed. That the District of Tumber Ridge informs the Tumber Ridge Museum Foundation that council is suspending funding their institution through the grant in aid or fee-for-service policy until the conditions are met. So, as far as I can see, if these have all been done and all met, then in terms of proceeding any further in terms of dollars or whatever, they haven't been met. So I don't know why we're dealing with it and why it's on the agenda at this time. Just trying to follow it through.
I'll tell you that what you just stated will be reflected in my vote, and I don't know, I can't speak for the rest of council.
Right.
But, all I'm trying to do is get it to a point that we can vote on.
Right, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough, and that's why I'm speaking, I guess, against the motion that we haven't received the information that the Tumber Ridge Museum Foundation committed themselves to giving us. We haven't received that information yet, for whatever reason I don't know. And that, again, we put a formal motion on the floor, which was moved and passed, that until we get that, that there wouldn't, any funding would be suspended from the organization. Now, if we've received it, fair enough, but other than that, Your Worship, my recommendation is that we advise the Tumber Ridge Museum Foundation of that, ask them for the information, put it back on the agenda, see how council feels.
I think it's gotta come to a vote before we get to that point. Mr. Wall, am I wrong?
A vote on which, sorry?
On fee for service. Right now, we can't look at it because it doesn't conform to policy.
That,
If they do the policy, then we can look at it and vote. Is that not right?
that's up to council, that's your guys' decision, not mine, so yes.
Seems pretty straightforward, you know, how confusing can we make this? If they conform to our policy, then it comes in front of us, and we vote on it. If 7 people vote on it, that's the way this works.
Yes,
Is that not right?
that's right. You can
That's-
also,
That's where we are, Councilor Casey, is that they haven't conformed to policy, so it can't even come in front of us.
Huh?
So when it does come in front of us, then the argument you have holds water.
Fair enough. So in terms as it stands now, then, is there a motion on the floor?
The motion is to not look at it until they conform with the policy. Okay? Councilor Craigoff?
I just got one quick question, Mr. Wall. What was the deadline to have these in by?
January 8th, I believe.
So if it comes in late, we're also gonna have to vote on whether to accept the late proposal?
Yeah, and that's why it was difficult answering your question.
Yeah, I thought that. Thank you.
Okay, can we get by that? Okay, Moncton RV Park Operators Agreement, a recommendation there?
I believe there's a motion on the floor, your worship.
Oh, okay, we'll have the end for that.
No.
Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Is there a motion?
It's on,
To have this brought back to council, to request that the museum provide the information to fill out the policy.
all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, carried. Okay, Moncton RV Park Operators Agreement, a recommendation there? Councilor Mackay.
I recommend the council executes a 1-year extension of the operating agreement for Muckman RV Park with Wild River Operation. Who's the operator?
Second for that? Councilor Trocca, discussion? Councilor Scott.
I'm wondering why we're not putting it out to RFP. I was just
Mr. Wall.
That's a council decision, not mine. You can put it up RFP if that's what you want to do.
Councilor
Thank you, your worship. I agree with Councillor Scott. I think we should put it out to an expression of interest. I realize that we have posted it several times and we've only had that one proponent come back, but who's to say there isn't somebody else interested this year? So I would also like to see it go to an expression of interest.
All I've got to say on that is that they have done a pretty good job from what they've been told, so I have no problem with it. Okay, all in favor of the recommendation? Councilor Trocca.
I just got a question, is what would be the reason for it to come forward for the 1-year extension and not to go back out? Did they have an option to extend?
There is an option to extend, yes. And this is what council did last year as well. Council approved a 1-year extension last year.
So in their contract, do they have, in their contract to extend again for another year?
Yeah, they have the ability to extend if council wants to make that extension. That's what I'm saying. It's not my decision. This is council's
Okay, so
decision.
that's why I'm asking, but it's in their contract, they have that.
That it could extend for another year, yes.
Okay, all in favor of the recommendation? Opposed? That's 5. Are you opposed?
I'm not sure what the recommendation is. Bear with me.
To
What is the recommendation on?
continue with Wild River running the RV park? We got, I'll do it again.
So this would be to have Wild River Adventures, Wild River Operations continue as the RV park operator.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Pass. 4 in favor, 3 opposed. Uh, 2018 golf course restaurant and lounge operations, are you gonna? Yeah. I have a recommendation there. Councilor Kirby.
Recommendation as presented.
Okay, seconder. Okay. Discussion on it. Councilor Howe.
So for the people that had the operation last time, they didn't have an extension in their contract? Is that why this one is not up for extension?
This one is up for extension. That's something council can do. So my recommendation here is based off what council said you were going to do last year, was to put this out for a year, see how things went, and then put it out again.
Okay.
It's also how council dealt with the Milkman RV Park. You actually sent that out to RFP or EOI 3 times before settling on an operator. So this is based on what council has said you were going to do and previous practice as well. But again, this is not my decision. If council wants to enter into a contract solely with Debcar, you have the ability to do that.
We did have a complaint last year on how it went down. And so I think it's a good idea to redo it this year.
Fair enough, yeah. Good call.
Anything else? All in favor? Opposed? 6-4, none again. We have, okay. You bet. Five, aeration project tender. Recommendation there? Yeah,
Recommendation as presented.
seconder? Discussion. All in favor? Oh, just a minute.
Yeah, sorry, that's just the aeration project was the one that we put a grant need, or sorry, a request to the government to get funding for,
Yeah, we got $850,000.
and it needed,
Now it needs, $1,430,000.
so is the increase because we couldn't find people to do it last year and we have to pay more money to find people to do it, is that?
I think it's just that the bids come in higher than what we expected.
Okay,
But at least we got bids this year, we didn't get any last year.
So this, the range of bids, it says in the report. Last year, we didn't get any bids on the project. This year, the lowest bid was 1.4 million, the highest bid was 2.5.
But it also states in there if we go another year, we may lose that grant. Okay, all in favor? Vote. Unanimous. Okay. 8.6, 2018 operating budget. Recommendation? Number 30,
Recommendation as presented.
seconder? Okay. Discussion?
when it says it includes the costs outlined in Schedule A for inclusion in the financial plan, this is just for our consideration at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, carried. Schedule of meetings. Anybody got anything to change in there? When are you gone, Mr. Wall?
Soon, I'll email council to Right, when my computer has energy.
Okay. Notice a motion, Councillor Scott, you had 9.1.
Yes, I was thinking that it would be really nice to include the TR Raptors logo because it represents all of minor hockey, just in Center Ice. A lot of the other communities do that, and the Minor Hockey Association in Tumbler Ridge brings a lot of families to town. And they also spend a lot of time, like the parents, the coaches, the children, spend a lot of time going out and being advocates and of Tumbler Ridge. And I just think it'd be really neat to put that on Center Ice next year in September going forward.
Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with Councillor Scott. I think you have your hometown pride, and when your team is hosting a tournament, they should be the focus of the tournament, and that's, I don't think it should just be 1 year. I think that should just be an ongoing thing, that our hometown hockey teams, that should always be a TR Raptors logo in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, I fully agree. But did it not used to be?
It did.
Oh, no, it used to be our junior team.
Okay, no, okay, but in the last few years, I mean, I've been here for a short term. There used to
No,
be
TR symbol.
just TR symbol. Jason Carlson, he worked there, didn't have the TR Raptors. You know that?
We did have a Raptor symbol at 1 year or 2 years.
Just 1 year.
Yeah. It was not ongoing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and we just spent the weekend out in Valley View. Our Pee Wee team has made the all-piece finals this year, so it's the biggest thing that they can make for where we are, and we're in the finals right now for a playoff spot. And we were in Valley View's arena, and Valley View actually has their flooring in their arena area has their sign done with a rubberized flooring, and they have their team logo, and it's the same idea that we do here, that one logo represents all of minor hockey, and they have it in a rubberized mat form. And I've seen parents on our team taking pictures of it. So I kind of think that likely somebody's going to be sending you an email on that, Mr. Wall, saying we'd like to see that in our hockey hallways. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I grew up playing here, and it is a lot of pride to go behind that logo, and it's something that's stuck for a long time. It represents the Geo Park and the museum and everything else that we're trying to do in our community. Kids got the new jerseys this year. I think it would look great to have that logo on Center Ice. And I still like the business support as well. I'm not a big fan of it being on the ice. I'd rather see it on the walls there. But that's also an extra little bit to go to the minor hockey for their new jerseys and stuff like that. So I'd like to see that as well.
I kind of like the idea. I just wondered after watching all the Olympics, what do they call the big shakes? Not the Raptors?
No, we could though.
I just, that sort of thing. I like the idea too. Okay, so that we've got you made a motion
Yes.
and I got a second.
Second.
And,
We make an amendment to that to state that it's continued on throughout the years, not just for 1 year. Now he doesn't have to come back full council.
Maybe just make an amendment to saying that the TR Raptors logo beginning in September 2018, that'll make that change.
so that's okay with you?
Yes, that's perfect.
That's okay with, okay, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Next one is mine. It's Tumbler Ridge Health Concerns Committee, which we talked about on health the other day. And I'd like to make a motion to that administration prepares a draft terms of reference for the Tumbler Ridge Health Concerns Committee, and that $10,000 be budgeted for this committee for 2018. And, we get a seconder for that? Councilor Mackay. The reason I put that $10,000 there, I do think a paid position there does make these things work better. If somebody would spend probably a lot more time there. That's all.
So I understand this is in its infancy and it's just starting out, and it's something that I want to get involved in for sure. How would it work if we get to a point where we want to make an offer, or we say we're talking about signing bonus or retention bonus for nurses or something that we were willing to match what Northern Health does or a portion thereof? Because it's not in the 2018 budget, it would be something we could add later on, or if we decide in July, say, that we want to offer something, how would that work? Mr. Doyle?
That would depend on the terms of reference in the committee and what your budget is. So you can structure it a number of different ways. You can make it so that the committee has that funds to do that. I don't know if council wants to put that much money into an organization to make, or into committee to make decisions that large financially that you don't have control over. You can do it that way. The other way you can do it would be to maybe have that committee provide recommendations back to council and you guys make the final decision. You could simply make a line item in staff's budget and have us negotiate a bunch of different ways. So it depends how you want to move forward.
That's the way I thought it was. It would just make recommendations to council and make a decision to the end. Any other discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Carried. Council's business. Anything anybody wants to share?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question. Following our health, the meeting with Northern Health, we talked about inviting the Ministry of Child and Family Services and also our school trustee in. I'm just wondering if those motions were made through that meeting? Like, maybe on to Mr. Wall? No? Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that council invites the Ministry of Child and Family Services to a council meeting and also our school trustee, just to give an update on that. Also, just an update, the revalidation papers have gone in. The Geopark has, I guess, better wait for, yeah, sorry. Yeah. Going on, yeah.
Second round of that motion, Councilor McKay. Any discussion on that?
So just to clarify, that is so that we can get the correct person to talk to the government to provide counseling services
Yeah.
within the schools?
Yes.
For anybody who's below 18,
Yes.
under 18?
I think we should be supplying Mr. Wall with any questions that we're gonna have for the trustee and for the, and so you can let them know what we're gonna be asking.
So will that be at a round table or a PNP?
That's just a topic for discussion. How does council think it's gonna benefit us, you know? Is it,
I think with the school trustee, maybe it could be a council meeting, but maybe with the Ministry of
Family and Child Services, maybe that could be a PNP?
What's council's thought on that?
I'm thinking it's, if we can get everybody here at the same time, it seems to work much more effectively than we're having the round table. It's a little bit more informal and everyone seems to, discuss things a little bit more freely, so I'd like to see that.
We've got everybody here too, it's asked about kind of thing, you know. Councilor McKay?
Yeah, and I think the services that have left the school district, or our schools in particular, I think that's the trustee is the person that's been more adequate to address those concerns with the school district 59. Is there any possibility of having those reinstated, or why did they leave in the first place?
Yeah. Yeah, I think all those questions, if we can get them to Mr. Wall so we can get them.
Yeah.
They'll have the information rather than saying they'll have to come back.
But is the counselor position within the school district? Like, I thought that was something that's provided separately by the government. It's for people that are 18 and under. It's not necessarily people that are in school. So are we mixing two boards up here? Like, maybe, like, to me, the only reason why we want to talk to the person in the government is because they've removed the counselor for people that are under 18 in our community. That, to me, could be addressed with a letter to say that, council wants to know what's the idea behind it, when are we going to remedy it, and when's it going to be fixed, rather than have a round table discussion about it. It's one specific subject that we want to talk to her about. or that's right, that person.
Yeah.
I think, is it, maybe there's more, I don't know, but out of the roundtable, that's what I got, that we have one specific ask for them, and that to me would be well addressed in a letter. Rather than a roundtable with her, one thing.
I think like the roundtable we had with Northern Health the other day, was, I think we got something out of that.
I agree. I agree that it's the right way, but I don't think that we're taking two different groups here. We're taking apples and oranges and putting them together.
I see what you mean, yeah.
We're not asking for a fruit salad, right?
Yeah, actually, they don't really affect each other, do they, or?
Well, I think that, yeah, the ministry,
No, that's why I said maybe the Ministry of
Child and Family Services could be a different compared to,
having our school trustee, and they can still update us on issues on the counseling.
but, you know, all I know is that at the end of that meeting, there was a real concern over our youth in town,
And they're falling through the cracks, and we absolutely need to get mental health or some kind of,
counseling in Tumbler Ridge, and I think we need to look at all aspects of how we can make that happen. So. Whether, which,
as long as we're moving forward on that, to me, it's just, let's decide as a council which way we wanna go, and let's just start it in motion.
I think they should be divided. I think
Okay.
the trustee at one meeting and ministry at the other. I was thinking more along the lines of Northern Health and that ministry, but the trustee, I can't see how she affects the mental health.
Or Rob was ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. It probably would be better in two separate meetings. The reason for the trustee would be to maybe utilize School District 59 into going after the Ministry of Children and Family Affairs, because that's the ones that have taken away the service.
Yeah.
And so it'd be more likely to use that avenue, as well as council and every other one we can find to bring them back.
So, what is our motion right now?
To contact School District 59 and the Ministry of Child and Family Services to have them attend a council meeting.
Should change that, I guess, Repeat that, or?
If it was it seconded?
I don't think so.
Then it can just die.
Would you like to make a different
So, I'm still unclear
so let's, are we inviting Ministry of Child, Family Services to a
council meeting separately from, is it still a council meeting, or would council, like, before I make the recommendation, is the flavor of council to have them in a PNP?
Not, to me, it's not. To me, it's to write them a letter. This could be simply a series of numbers. We don't have the students in here that justify you having a counselor. We don't know what the reasoning is.
If we just give them the opportunity to explain why,
If we don't like the explanation, then we could certainly try to bring them in, but maybe a perfectly reasonable explanation of why we don't have them in our community.
This has been an argument around here for a long time, and I would really like to see him sit in here, whether it's at a PMP or council. I think a PMP would be better, and explain it, because I'm sure we have sent letters before of this time. I know some people haven't, and they haven't gone anywhere, so I would like to see him sit here and a PMP. Councilor Cook.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'd like to see it sit at a PNP. I mean, there is a lot of issues in Tumbler Ridge. I mean, I sit on a few different meetings and it comes up monthly. They do have some kind of counseling that does come in on a chat with right now that does come into the schools. So it's a buffer, I guess. I don't even know what you want to call it. But I think if they come up here, they got to answer why we haven't had that put back into the house. After we lost Autumn when she was up to drug and alcohol, there was nothing for underage. It's a big hole. Can't say that Autumn went to the schools, but I believe she did go to schools too, so she did that. But she also seen individuals on her own. I think that's a big hit in the community. Or some of the stuff that's seen within Tumbler Ridge, or the young youth see in Tumbler Ridge. So I'd like to see them sit here too. And knowing they're coming, I know this room will be fairly packed.
Councilor Scott, did you have something?
No, I agree, and I think this is something we need to start addressing like ASAP.
Anybody else? Councilor Councillor Kirby.
Okay, let's make the recommendation that we invite Ministry of Child and Family Services to a upcoming PNP meeting.
Secretary for that. Councillor Scott. Councillor Casey, you had,
Just discussion, just for a moment, Your Worship. I'm just wondering whether or not it would be worthwhile, in terms of extending the invitation. Would be a number of things that we want to specifically talk about with a heads up to them. Be worthwhile to sort of include maybe in the letter just to give them advance warning. That was the only suggestion I would make.
okay, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous? Carried. And so the other one is, school trustee.
I'd like to make a motion to invite the school trustee
To come and give an update to council,
and also we can send, maybe some questions along with that,
Yeah.
invitation,
That could be done on a
Yeah. regular council.
regular council meeting. Seconder, Councillor Guy. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried, unanimous. Okay. Anything else?
That's a problem. Just an update that the papers for
revalidation have been sent in to UNESCO, so we'll be waiting on an update from Sarah.
down the road. I just wanted to make a comment on Mayor Nichols' article in the paper. It was a really good article regarding the nursing, our issues, and with the upcoming courses that are gonna be offered. So if anybody's interested, take a read. He did a great job on it.
The only thing I had was, I think I mentioned to you, I was asked to be on that task force, mining jobs, the provincial task force. It is coming due in mid-March, I think it's 16th, in Vancouver. And the expenses are all picked up by the government, so, provincial government. So. It'd be interesting to be part of that, and we'll be talking a lot to that gentleman over there. Get something that I can throw into the mix here. I think maybe that's one of the reasons they asked me. Thank you, Mark. Okay, anything else? Okay, we're question and answer period. Anybody got any questions? Paula?
I'm gonna put on my Forever Young just for a second. When Joanne lumped the three groups together for the grant aid, Forever Young was there. Was it voted on?
Yes.
Okay, I missed the vote totally, sorry. I was dozing.
It was carried.
I was probably coughing.
Thank you.
That's better than dozing.
Mr. Wall?
Never mind, that's correct.
Anybody else? Alrighty. Guess that takes us to adjournment.
I think I'm the same thing.
All in favor?
Oh, I said no, still.